All right, and we are live. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to your March 2021 horoscope. I haven't done one of these in a while. I think I missed out on January. Totally forgot about February. And here we are. If you're watching this on YouTube, this was live on my Twitch. If you're not following me on Twitch, make sure you go in the description below and follow my link if you want to participate in these lives. Yes, this is a live stream of the March 2021 horoscope. I haven't done this in a while. I'm super excited. Before I actually go into the horoscope of everything that's kind of going on in March, I have a lot of stuff that I got to cover before. So if you're, again, watching this on YouTube and you don't want to hear me rant about a bunch of stuff, go ahead and fast forward. I'm sure there'll be some type of timestamp somewhere below. However, what we're going to basically do is I got a bunch of stuff I want to cover that I want to announce, also kind of not necessarily announce, but then go over the horoscope. And then at the end, in these live videos that I do, people who are in the audience that are watching this live on Twitch, they usually, like, I ask them for their birth information, and I use participants' charts for the example chart for, like, when I talk about, for example, March's horoscope. We're going to talk about what Pisces is going to go through. We're going to talk about what Sagittarius is going to go through, and I like to use people who are on this live stream's charts for examples and kind of use their chart to kind of give them advice too. So, if you want, well, this kind of leads me into one of my first announcements, because I don't know if I'm going to be continuing these March, or not necessarily these horoscopes, these style of horoscopes anymore. I'm actually going to start doing zodiac sign monthly horoscopes again. Back in, oh gosh, I think I stopped doing monthly horoscopes in, oh gosh, 2020 was a long year. I think I stopped doing them in like April, and a lot of people liked me doing the monthly horoscopes, and that's when I was like, I had a whole video for Taurus, a whole video for Cancer, and all that stuff. And I'm actually going to go back to doing that. I'm going to go back to doing more individual horoscopes, and this monthly horoscope that I'm actually doing right now, that's much more of like casual and streamed. This is actually going to turn more into a podcast, not necessarily so much of a monthly horoscope. I'm going to keep doing my weekly horoscopes, of course, but I want to start doing more individual sun sign horoscopes, or rising sign horoscopes, I should say. I kind of miss doing that, and I'm also ready to like really take horoscopes to a next level and really like put some really good shit out there that I think you guys will really enjoy. And yeah, and then basically this monthly horoscope that I'm kind of doing on here on Twitch is going to turn much more into kind of like a podcast where I could talk about things. I know a lot of, I don't really talk a lot about like stuff I got going on in my personal life on like my weekly. Like in my weekly, I'm like straight to the cut of it. Now I got all of you guys' comments coming in Twitch, so now I can actually see it. Yeah, so I'm gonna get to Twitter here in a second, but anyway, yeah, so I'm gonna start doing this. Is gonna turn much more into a podcast thing, and I'm gonna actually start trying to have more open conversations about stuff. Clearly, all of this Saturn Jupiter stuff is in my third. Let's see, what are the other things that I want to announce? So yes, I'm not on Twitter. I'm sure I've gotten a couple of messages on other places about why I deleted my Twitter. So again, if you're watching this on YouTube, I got a lot of stuff I got to talk about. So if you just want to get to the horoscope, you can fast forward this. But so basically, this all started for me earlier this year, to provide some context for you where I'm at with things. Because also I want to be more, I guess, authentic and just open. I feel like that's something, I don't know. I think that's something astrologers should be more akin to. But anyway, and I want to, I guess, lead by example in that sense where, for me, in case, a lot of you guys started following me this year, you guys don't really know anything, I guess, where I'm at. And as far as context goes, end of 2019, when my dad died, that was like a pretty big thing I had to deal with in my life. And I moved to LA from Denver, and I'm originally from Southern California. So this is kind of like home, but I'm not from LA. I'm from the IE, which if you in California, it's two completely different worlds. And I moved to LA thinking, okay, I was like, I want to do more astrology here, be closer to my family. However, I was in a 12th house perfection, which I was dealing with a lot of, I think, internal issues Of course, after my dad died, I moved here right when lockdown started, and I was really isolated. I literally do this full time here by myself in my apartment. So I'm alone a lot of the time. And so that 12th house year was pretty bad. And so I'm bringing all this up because after lockdown started, I was on Twitter a lot, of course, and there was like house party and fucking FaceTime and Zoom, and it was Venus in Gemini, which I have Venus in Gemini, and that Venus retrograde phase I was born under, so there was a lot of shit that I had going on for me. And so during that time, that Saturn-Mars conjunction when Mars was my Time Lord was exactly opposite my sun. Like, the Mars-Saturn lockdown thing was on my sun, and it really, it was a big thing for me. It really fucked me up, and from there, my relationship to social media really changed. I felt very consumed by it. I felt very, I was anticipating to move to LA and meet, a bunch of new people, and that really didn't happen. So I was really isolated, and I was, I guess, exchanging that just like everyone else was in the world for social media. And I don't know what it was. Like, it was just, it felt like overstimulation. Like, it legitimately affected my mental health. So I got into things like digital minimalism, which I can't recommend enough. It's like the Bible for me. It's a book by Cal Newport. Cal Newport's a great author. You guys should look into him, but he has this book called Digital Minimalism. So I read it. And so over this past spring, I didn't delete Twitter. I basically did, though, because I muted everyone that I followed. And I muted everyone for about a month. And, well, except I didn't mute, like, NASA, and then there's this guy that posts, like, space photography. So I had, like, two boring things. But it was, like, I did it because I wanted to change my relationship to social media. I felt like I was on it all the time, and it affected my mood. And it's just, like, how can I sit here and let this thing, like, affect me so greatly to where, like, it changes my mood, which changes, like, when your cortisol, like, it raises in your body, like, I don't know, I think that's a bad thing. And so I muted everybody, right? Because I was like, I want to still be on Twitter. I have a big following on Twitter. Like, it's, part of my business and everything, but it was like, I didn't want to get rid of it. And so anyway, I muted everybody. But the problem with muting everybody was, for one, it felt kind of fucked up. I was like it kind of, that didn't feel good, right? But I didn't know what else to do. And I've been trying to be like, no, I don't need to, I don't need to delete my Twitter. I don't know what else to do. But, like, my thing was, like, I needed to get off social media. It's so, like, unhealthy for me at this point. And, like, for me, like, the challenging part for me being an astrologer and doing what I do is a lot, like, I feel like I'm always forced to be doing personal development stuff, which I love to do. Like, I'm a wreck. I need the personal development stuff. However, when I do videos, all this stuff, like, and videos and stuff like this all the time, like, I want to be authentic. I actually want to be doing the fucking work. And at this point in my life, the work for me right now looks like changing my relationship to social media. And that's a big thing that everyone's going through right now. And, like, especially like I'm young millennial, early Gen Z, and I know my whole generation's been completely fucked by social media. And so, I think at this day and age, it's time to do something different. And for me, I might turn my Twitter back on. I'm not sure if I'm going to be off Twitter forever, but my problem was, the reason why I deleted it was, if I wanted to be off of it, I can't just delete the app. What I did was, because trust me, my whole family is addicts. And if you guys have addicts in your family or have been through AA, you know the drill. Like, motherfuckers will figure out a way to do shit. And I've got the same genes, right? And so what I would do is I'd delete the Twitter app. And then, like, but then I'd log into Safari because I just wanted to see what's trending, Like, it's that fucking dopamine hit that I'm fucking looking for, basically. And so then I would just log onto Safari, and then I would log off. And then it's just like, if I didn't just completely delete the Twitter, I would still find my way on it. And, like, that's defeating the whole purpose of me getting rid of it. So, I'm not sure if I'm going to be off of Twitter forever, but just right now, like, I just know for me, well, for one, too, I waste a lot of time on Twitter. Like, I'm fucking, sure, Twitter's fun and games, but, like, I really also feel like I have a great, like, I really want to provide awesome astrology content. Like, I feel like something I'm really passionate about lately is the fact that, like, we're literally at this weird fucking nexus of, for one, all of this great old astrology is coming to the forefront again. We're having calculatable birth charts. The whole world is coming together. So we have social media where we could share this information instantaneously. It's like, all I want to do right now is provide awesome astrology content. You know what I mean? Like, I want to step the game up. Like, and, you know, I feel like I put everything really into my horoscopes, and I want to do more of that. So it's like, I feel like I waste my time making meaningless content on Twitter when I could just be putting more into my other stuff. So that's why I quit Twitter. And I don't have a plan. I think it's really weird. Something I've noticed when, like, people like me who have like a following make like an announcement, like they have like a whole plan, and I always was like how every time I make a plan, like, it doesn't work. I would much rather say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. I think, like, these are the changes I want to make. I don't know what's going to be right. I don't know what's going to be best, but that's kind of what I'm doing. And, like, well, for another thing that I'm changing in my life right now is I'm moving, getting out of Los Angeles. I live right on my Mars line. Not a good idea. Don't you know, what's fun about being an astrologer is knowing when it's the wrong thing to do something and you do it anyway. And then it's like when your parents tell you, don't touch the stove, you'll burn yourself. And you go, like, okay, fuck you, no I won't. And then you burn yourself, you go, oh, okay, maybe I won't touch that anymore. I don't know, there's something, it's literally the response that you get. It's I don't know, it's interesting doing stuff that I don't know, that you're not supposed to do. Anyway, I moved on my Mars line. I hated it. I hate LA. The weather is amazing here, but it's really expensive and everything's dying. So I'm gonna move back to Vegas, which again, better for my mental health, and I really think that can really help me. I don't know, put more out there. But again, all I can do right now, and again, this is something that I think the world needs more of, and I think a lot of people are just unsure of how to do it, is like just more straight up authenticity. And all I can do as someone who, you know, you guys watch my videos, you guys make your assumptions about me. All I can do is basically share my experience of what I'm going through, right? And let you guys make of it what you are. So, that's basically what's going on in my life. I'm really excited for a lot of these changes. Because again, also too, you know what I've just noticed about Twitter is just, I don't know, it's just, we all had to leave MySpace. There was a time where things changed, and something that I've really noticed has been, now that the sun is moving past Jupiter and Saturn, now that they're becoming more visible, I think things are becoming more clear. And this is a great segue into this monthly horoscope, because, you know, now that I think things are going to start setting in, a lot of what I think this month is kind of like, do you guys remember your first day of high school, or maybe even middle school? I remember my first day of middle school, where instead of one teacher all day long, all the same classmates, you know, you're basically handed this random schedule and you got to figure it out. And, you know, you're in middle school, you basically hate yourself. Well, at least Gen Z, middle and millennial kids, like, middle school was basically like 3 years of like basically being like, I want to kill myself, but I don't know why. And anyway, you would get these maps, like, I remember, like, first day of middle school, you'd be so confused, but like no one really was there to like tell you where to go. You just kind of had to figure it out. And, you know, if you got something wrong, you got something wrong. That's just how it goes. But I think that's how March is. I think March is really, you know, like, hey, basically, you know, no one's gonna hold your hand through this, but it's time to wake up and catch on. Just catch up with it. You'll figure it out. And again, like I talked about in a couple of my weekly horoscopes of, you know, maybe things are going slow for a reason, right? Like, again, and I said, what was the other thing I said? Social cues. Just paying attention to what's around you. Like, I really think March is where you go, oh, I'm in a different environment now. Things are like, or like, you know, example, when you go from 8th grade, or at least if you're in America, because I know there's going to be people in the comments like, that's not how it works here. But anyway, in America, when you go from 8th grade, and when you're in 8th grade, you just think you're the fucking shit. And then you go to freshman and you're basically like bottom of the barrel. It's a huge switch over, and no one really tells you again how it's supposed to work. It just kind of happens. So anyway, that's how I really think March is. And again, thank you, Kate. Shout out Kate Killett. Also, oh my God, I'm so glad I said that, because I just wanted to also shout out to the person who always does my timestamps, that I pin their comment every time, because like spiritually, I do the timestamps. In my head, I'm like, I'm giving everyone timestamps, but physically it's hard to remember. So I appreciate that, timestampers. Actually, I wrote a list of everything I want to make sure I covered too. yeah, that's basically everything I wanted to cover before we actually started the horoscope. So, one second, I need a drink. I forgot I'm out of coffee. I need some water. So, let's go ahead and jump into March. Here's March, guys. Like I said before, this style of monthly horoscope, this might be the last one, or it might be April that I do that's the last one. Things are going to be much more simplified. But again, I'm going to start focusing much more on each zodiac sign and doing a more intense kind of horoscope style. But notice that usually in my monthly horoscopes, I got a whole fucking list. Notice that there's not a lot going on, but notice that it's condensed. It's really like 1 week of this, 1 week of this, 1 week of this. But I cannot tell you how fucking kick-ass March is. I'm saying it's kick-ass. This is like, okay, have you guys ever dated someone so shitty for so long that like when you date someone else and they do something, like, I mean, something, like, it could just be even a small compliment. And it just, like, I mean, fills your love tank and you're like, whoa, like, the bare minimum just is like, just, it just rips a whole new one into you, right? Like, that's what March is. March isn't really that great of a month, but in comparison to, well, you know, since basically June, it's pretty much the best month we've had. So it's going to feel great, even though it's not that great. It's really the bare minimum. But I bring this up to basically say, in a weird way, things are going to slowly go back to normal. In a weird way. Because I was looking at this, again, no one's going to tell you like, oh, hey, this is the transition. This is what you need to change. It's just pick up, go, figure it out. Like, we're, as you guys can clearly see, now that Jupiter and Saturn are becoming more visible, things are becoming more clear. We're starting to see what all this new stuff is. It's just like, you know, figure it out. Go with it. Like, listen to your senses, right? So we start the month. Big things that we're going to start just here with the first two transits, and that's going to be Mars enters Gemini, Mercury conjoins Jupiter, and the Sun will square the nodes. So let's pull this bad boy up. Let's bring out the chart. Let's actually get to our day. So March 4th, we start this month off. Mars enters Gemini. This is going to feel like when the Adderall hits. When you are like, when it's, especially too, for a better, let's do a better analogy than maybe Adderall. This is when the coffee hits. This is when, you know, you've warmed up a little bit. You've stretched. Mars has been in Aries, right? Mars was in Aries for 6 months, getting hammered by Jupiter and Saturn, and it was retrograde. It wasn't necessarily debilitated, but it had a lot of issues. And then Mars went into Taurus, where it just got annihilated again. Mars in Gemini is like the fight's done. Like, we can move on. Things are next subject, right? Mars is, again, action, energy, drive, what we're, basically what we're pursuing. But Mars is also fights, conflicts. And so there's a good part of Mars in Gemini where if you're the type of person like me that needs Mars energy to do anything, and like if you've been, everyone in Mars and Taurus, I don't know anyone that's done anything at all. No one's done anything since Mars has been in a Taurus, and that's okay. I think we needed a break, but Mars in Gemini is like, okay, you know, wake up. Like, here we are, figure it out. But this is when you get your focus pulled. Mars in Gemini can get really distracted. Mars in Gemini can be very, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But the one thing though about Mars and Gemini is very fighting with words. Mars and Gemini is very will have conflict verbally. So Mars and Gemini is going to be on a sick one, because I want to point out that Mars is getting really close to the North Node. Mars will conjoin the North Node in March, but that's going to be later on. But as Mars gets closer and closer, Mars is only going to get like the Adderall or the coffee or whatever stimulant is going to keep hitting Mars, and Mars is only going to get more and more turned up as the weeks progress. So you're going to have more energy. You're going to have more drive. You're going to want to be doing two different things, because that's what Mars likes to do. Mars can't just do one thing in Gemini, right? Does Gemini just do one thing? So that's kind of the MO with that. And that's how we basically start March off, right? Like, we really go to, we're really onto a whole new subject by the time we go into Mars. By the time we go into March. Mercury conjoins Jupiter. This is really important. And because Mercury, of course, has had this huge retrograde through Aquarius, which again, with all that stuff in Aquarius, we're still at this point translating that. The Sun and Venus and Pisces is still like, what does it all mean? It's still mixing everything up. But Mercury conjoining Jupiter, Mercury is spitting out that image. In fact, I didn't do the January horoscope, but my file, my file with this thing that I did for January, it said that the first Mercury-Jupiter conjunction was in January. So think back, it was on January 11th, actually. So think back to January 11th. I know, of course, that's what's 10 years ago, and there's a whole nother world going on in January, but in the sense, oh my gosh. Okay, so pause, time out real quick. I have to go turn off my chirping fire alarm because Mars is still fucking with my IC in the apartment I'm in. It's such a crazy thing. I can't get my fire alarm fixed, but it starts beeping every minute. So I gotta be right back. Oh, that's funny. So yeah, in my Saturn and Aquarius video, everyone's like, "Oh my god, you got fucking," it's all chirping and everything. It's like, okay, chill. But anyway, Mercury conjoining Jupiter. So back in January, when all of this Mercury stuff was happening, or not Mercury, all this Aquarius stuff was happening, all of this, we knew we were in a new place, but we weren't familiar with the environment yet. By the time Mercury conjoins Jupiter, we're pretty familiar with what's going on. Mercury is, again, announcing a voice, right? Mercury is reading the decree of Jupiter and Aquarius. And Jupiter and Aquarius, what does Jupiter and Aquarius have to say? This is Jupiter and Aquarius's, 2 minutes on the mic, essentially. And Mercury's had a few times on top of Jupiter. First time Jupiter said something, it was kind of weird. Then Mercury conjoined Jupiter again during the retrograde, and there was kind of this, oh, this is how we need to see things differently. And again, when I say see things differently, Jupiter rules our faith. The way that Jupiter rules our, idealistic way that we see the world. Jupiter, our worldview, right? And so with Mercury hitting Jupiter, it's like we think we know what we're seeing. And then Mercury retrogrades and we go, oh, maybe this isn't what we're seeing. Maybe this isn't the ideal I was expecting. It's like when, Jupiter is very theoretical and sometimes certain theories don't really hold a lot of water. And that's okay, but that Mercury conjoining Jupiter is very clearly there's an issue. Mercury conjoining Jupiter here is, if there's going to be a solution, I think this is when it gets brought out. However, it's Jupiter and Aquarius, it's a fixed sign. This is much more about creating stability. Jupiter and Mercury are pretty far away from Uranus at this point, but this is much more about hey, what is stable? What can we get to be more stable? It's with Aquarius, it's how do you create more airflow? So I don't know if you guys know how an engine works, but I've been blown away by the idea of it lately because okay, I'm not going to explain how an engine works because that would take a long time. What I wanted to say is wind, air circulation, and air being pumped in. If you guys know what a turbo is, and a lot of cars have them. If you have a Toyota Camry, if it's newer, it more than likely has a turbo on it. What's funny with the little turbos is this little tiny thing that just spins air, and you put it on the intake. And basically, when you step on the gas, and basically a gas pedal. When you push a gas pedal, all you're doing is sucking more air into the engine, which sucks more gas in. But that turbo spins extra air, and you hear a little woo as it goes faster, and you basically get a little oomph forward. That's kind of this Mercury-Jupiter conjunction, because I'm thinking, think fixed air. We want air to literally go through a fixed way and to not stop. Gemini is much more like hurricanes, and that's, chaos. Libra is much more I think winds changing or temperatures changing. Aquarius is much more whoosh, things are just going. How do we make them go better? And I think with Mercury conjoining Jupiter, of course, look where Aquarius is at in your chart. What house is all this talking about? all of this shit that you've had going on in Aquarius, this is where solutions start to get figured out. This is where you start going, oh, okay, now I know what's going on. And now I know how to make this air go the right way. Like, instead of going against the grain, you go, okay, this is you going with the grain at this point. And you figuring it out. Now, the other thing about March 5th, the next day, this is when we're going to be having the sun square the nodes. Now, I only brought this up because, again, the moon's also squaring the nodes at the same time. And the sun's in Pisces at this point, which, you guys know me, I bully Pisces sometimes, and that's because Pisces is a very hard sign to navigate. And when you have the sun in Pisces, it reminds me of a light that's in a pool. Like, if you guys ever gone night swimming and you have like those lights that are underneath, and it reflects and it shimmers underneath, it's like, yes, it's illuminating, but it creates this like fogginess. It creates this murkiness that you really can't actually see much with. Sure, there's illumination, but there's not a lot of clarity. And so you can see shadows. You can see when there's an object in front of you, but you can't necessarily make out its details. And so the sun in Pisces is much less listening to, like actually being like, this is what we're illuminating, but like, feeling it a little bit, intuitively. I hate to say that word because, again, like I want to use more specific phrases. However, what I'm trying to get here is I'm not trying to necessarily explain the sun in Pisces. I'm trying to explain much more the sun squaring the nodes. Now, with the nodes are very much a stretching and pulling type energy. One thing going this way, another thing going this way. And when you get a planet in the middle of it, at any point, right, there's this sense of, seeing both sides, being in the middle. But this is also the sun. And so where you see this point is when it comes to eclipse season, where eclipse seasons are those just timing signatures where this event's going to happen and then in 6 months it's going to close out, and it's going to be when kind of God hands you a fucking letter and is like, deal with it. The nodes, eclipses are very specific to fate. Eclipses aren't necessarily, if you're looking for free will in astrology, that's not where you look, is the eclipses. And so the sun being in the middle of that, and the sun literally being the thing that kind of like actually gets the eclipses going, this is where you start to see that table. This is where the tables really start to turn. This is where you go, oh, now we're starting to see, think back to December when everything was on the South Node. What were you letting go of? What were you changing course in? What did you acknowledge and say, this is where I need to go? The South Node's in Sagittarius right now. With the North Node in Gemini, there's this, we're gaining in new information, we're learning new things. And the South Node in Gemini is going, maybe I should change some of the views on some of the views I have. South Node in Sagittarius, maybe I should change my direction. Maybe I should reconsider where I'm going, right? And when we had eclipse season in December, there was this, for one, exhaustion. It's on the South Node. There was this letting go, but now we're in Pisces season. The sun in the middle is like, clearly we're on the precipice. We're turning the corner, but the sun's in Pisces. It's very aloof to that at the moment. And this is going to be important because when we get to Gemini season is crazy. And not crazy like 2020. I like to consider myself a chaotic neutral or a chaotic good. Gemini season this year is very chaotic. Like, a little chaotic evil, a little chaotic good, but just chaos in general. And so why I brought up the sun square moment is this is where you're going to start seeing, okay, things are leading up to an event in the spring that things you're going to lead up to. You got to look at where Sag and Gemini are at in your chart. And this is that turning point. But it's the sun in Pisces. You're not going to see the detail, but you're going to see the shadow. And so just, again, those social cues, just pay attention. That's that first chunk of March. That's how we start March off. Now, when we get to this middle 10-day chunk, this is the beefy, this is like the top part of the bun. This is like the burger, and this is like the bottom bun. This is our sandwich for the month. We get to the 13th. We basically have, 5, 6, 7, 8 days later. Wait, what happens on the 13th? Oh yeah, new moon in Pisces. So this is like actually crazy. So there's the new moon in Pisces. Venus will conjoin Neptune, and Mercury leaves shadow. So let's just acknowledge the fact that it's March 13th at this point, and Mercury is just leaving shadow. Mind you, Mercury entered shadow like in like the middle of January. So that's about 2 months of Mercury doing that whole fucking dance. And now it's finally over. We can finally move on. But this new moon in Pisces is funky. Let's get to the 13th. So, actually, let's back it up a little bit. Let's get that exact. Yeah, should be on the morning of the 13th. Yep. So, there's a few things with this new moon. For one, it looks fun, but it does look a little chaotic. Mercury is leaving shadow, yes. So all of the stuff that we've been reworking at this point, by the middle of March, we've figured it out. We know what's new. We know what we've got to do. We know what we have to be fixated in. This is a fixed sign, right? Like Aquarius is like, what do we need to stabilize? What do you need to create stability in? And Mercury conjoining Jupiter was like, I figured it out. Now that Mercury's out of shadow, now we're cooking with peanut oil, as some of the boomers would say. Now we get to this new moon in Pisces, where the new moon in Pisces is very much like a checkout moment. I'm a big believer in checking out. I'm a Sag rising and a Venus in Gemini. Like, we all deserve to just be able to just go out and be aloof and then come back and maybe check back in. I mean, it's also a coping mechanism too. But I would say that this new moon in Pisces is very much a time to go, okay, let's really, we're out of the chaos that was, but we're not necessarily in the new yet. We just got here. How do we feel? This is a vibe check. This is not a vibe check like oh, hey, we need to see if this is bad or good or bad. This is very much a vibe check in the sense that, like, how are you feeling? Where are you at with things? I think it's really going to hit us by March 13th. Like, this is something I've been really thinking about. It's been almost a year since the lockdown started. Like, that is kind of hard to, I guess, reconcile in a lot of ways. I don't want to go into opinions about everything, but I think no matter who your beliefs about everything about this, I think getting to a year, the year marker is, I think that's worthy of checking in with yourself and really asking, what's changed? What's different? What is going to change from here? Because that's another important thing about Pisces. Pisces is a mutable sign. The mutable signs deal with change. Think of Pisces. You're going from winter to spring. We're literally in the changing of the seasons. So what has changed? What is going to change? And this is Pisces. Pisces is it's a Jupiter ruled sign, right? It's very theoretical. It's very up in the air. It's, what does all of this mean? And Venus is on top of Neptune. Now, this is the good part about this. And that's why I saved it for last. Venus, of course, is exalted in Pisces. And at this point, Venus, think back, I was actually thinking about this. I was talking to SJ about this on Twitter. When Venus was like in Libra over this October, even though there was a lot of things that we were all going through, like that Venus in Libra transit felt so good. This Venus and Pisces transit is like our next like checklist of like, oh yeah, things are feeling really good by this point. But with Venus conjoining Neptune, some people could deal with overstimulation, but some people also like taking it to those extremes. And that's kind of like what Venus on Neptune is. Like, Venus in Pisces is fun, but sometimes there can be a little bit too much fun and it can be a little chaotic. Like, Venus on top of Neptune is like, you just took a lot of acid and you're at a concert and it's kind of hitting you that there's a lot going on and you can still have some fun, but it's intense fun. And so I bring this up because Venus and Neptune is whatever you're idealizing right now or whatever you're wanting to idealize. Of course, look at where Pisces is at in your chart. If it's in your 3rd or 6th or your 8th, whatever it is, that Venus conjoining Neptune is you're going to be really idealizing this situation. And I think you're going to see it for better than maybe what it is, but that's not a bad thing. I think this is like, enjoy it, right? Like, like for example, like in life, you know, when you first meet someone, they're a lot more attractive versus like I guess maybe after you know them for a while, or maybe that's just me or something. I would say that with Venus conjoining Neptune, like enjoy the sparkly, shimmery fantasy of it all. Venus conjoining Neptune, like great time, great fun, sexy times for one. But the one thing that I'm concerned with is, again, Venus conjoining Neptune is like, yo, it looks really good right now, but it's also, you know, this is why I use drugs for a Neptune analogy. It's like, you know, especially psychedelics. It's like things look really cool right now, but it's not reality. Like, that's not necessarily the truth. Sure, it is a truth. There is some truth in it, but it is not the truth. And I think with Venus conjoining Neptune, what's going to be important about this new moon is while we're checking in with ourselves, we're finally, you know, Mercury's direct, it's moving out of shadow, we're moving on, Sun's in Pisces, it's all kind of hitting us that we're like, oh, what the fuck was all of that? Let's check in. I think Venus conjoining Neptune is very much like, you know, let's make things better. Like, what can I actually enjoy right now? Venus conjoining Neptune too, I think is also very distracting. I think this is a good time to in creativity. Like, I think this is good. This is the kind of like, you know, I may not know what I'm fucking talking about here, but isn't it like a program that they had like for like Vietnam vets? They used to like make them paint or whatever to like express their feelings. Like, this is very one of those things where it's like, you know, rather than like sitting in, you know, your apartment by yourself and being like, you know, reliving whatever trauma you went through, like maybe paint something. You know what I mean? And maybe that can help you really work through your issues at that moment. This is very much a time to like, why don't you get some type of creativity? Get a coloring book or something. Like, you know, who doesn't, like, I don't know. I was thinking about that, like, us as humans, like, we've just drawn and we're so connected to that. Like, no one does that anymore. And maybe, I don't know, maybe draw something, get creative somewhere. And I think that might help you. For one, Venus conjoining Neptune is like good. Like, sometimes, sure, idealization can be bad, but hey, it is also fun. So my suggestion is have fun. Have fun with this. Look at what's new. Look at what's changing. Let's move on. How you guys feeling out there? Comment's been kind of quiet lately. Moving on to March 15th, 2 days later, Mercury enters Pisces. This is where things kind of get shitty a little bit. Let's actually fast forward to when that actually happens. There we go. Mercury enters Pisces pretty late in the afternoon on Monday, March 15th. Mercury, of course, goes into detriment when Mercury goes into Pisces. So Mercury in Pisces is bad in the sense where Mercury really struggles doing Mercury's job, and Mercury is like really important. Like, when Mercury can't do its job correctly, like, that can be it can be kind of catastrophic at times. However, Mercury in Pisces, I talked about this and I did a video about the Mercury retrograde in Pisces last year in 2020, and I talked about how the Mercury in Pisces is like writing down a message on your hand with a highlighter and then having to run in the heat somewhere to deliver it, and then you look at your hand and you can't read that. You cannot decipher what the fuck you wrote on your hand, so you kind of just say what you remember. That's Mercury in Pisces. What's fun about Mercury in Pisces is Mercury communicates very, like, you know, again, Mercury's using Jupiter terms, so it's using bigger words, it's using bigger ideas. Mercury is making you think in more abstract ways, right, when it works in Pisces. Sure, some of that can be maybe miscommunicated, or maybe some of that could be confusing, but Mercury in Pisces, like, what I've tried to tell people with Mercury in Pisces is, like, don't, like, Mercury in Virgo is when you should be writing everything down and, like, you know, making notes and making lists and, you know, going to the Container Store and putting everything in files and organizers. Mercury in Pisces is when you should just chuck it. Just, well, for one, it's one way you could look at it is just chucking your shit and not really being worried about organized. But another way I would look at it is, so I've been thinking a lot about how Aquarius I've been thinking a lot about how the Capricorn stuff is very like your modern standard desk. I'm once I move, I'm like investing in like because my desk this is not a comfortable setup for someone that this is where I spend all my time at. And I was getting into ergonomics. I don't know if you guys know what ergonomics is, but it's basically, well, actually, I couldn't tell you the definition, so I'm kind of making this off the top of my head. But this is very much like ergonomics is like the way what's supposed to be comfortable for you where you're sitting and shit. Capricorn is very much like a regular desk that's not ergonomic friendly. Aquarius is like ergonomics. Like you're still gonna get work done. And in fact, you're gonna get more work done because it makes more sense. Like it's funny. Like I bring that up because Mercury in Pisces is very like the idea of ergonomics is that there's a bigger way, a better way to think about things. I think Mercury in Pisces is there's a meme that kind of goes around on Twitter, or not on Twitter, like on Instagram. I've seen it before where it's like English teachers read really deeply into things that don't need to be read that deeply, and like a thing that's like Mercury or teachers looking for the meaning in all their texts, and like Mercury in Pisces is very much like really looking for the meaning in a lot of stuff. And sometimes you're gonna find stuff, sometimes that you're not. But the one thing that's also true with Mercury in Pisces is, again, like it's not about being specific with your words. It's not about being correct with even how you communicate. It's just about getting the message across. Just get the fucking picture clear. That's all. Plant the seed in people's mind, what they need to know. However you get that message across, that's anyone's game. That's the name of the game with Mercury in Pisces. So Mercury in Pisces, it's not bad, but it's very much like figure it out, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's much more of a struggle. Like Mercury in Virgo, it's so easy to elaborate things and be punctual and grammatically correct. Mercury in Pisces, it's like it's just you're not gonna make sense. So I guess just I try to say have fun with it. Like try to think in Jupiterian terms. Like Mercury struggles with that, and maybe it's a good mental workout. Like think in Jupiterian terms. How can you do things bigger? How can you do things that make more sense? Like what makes more sense is a good way to look at Mercury conjoining Jupiter, or Mercury going into Pisces. Anyway, that's Mercury going to Pisces. Honestly, I think Mercury in Pisces is going to suck because Mercury it rules communication, and communication is so important in our lives, especially right now when everyone's on social media. And Mercury, of course, is only going to be squaring Mars, which is going to be bad. And Mercury's also going to conjoin Neptune. So I just think, just don't worry about getting the message across with Mercury in Pisces. Just check out. Just in Pisces season, just check out. Do your own thing. Don't worry about Mercury in Pisces. It's just it's not going to be fun communicating with other people. But then on March 20th, the sun goes into Aries, and then let's actually move this forward. Bam. Sun goes into Aries March 20th. This is going to feel good. This is going to feel really good. As a solar person, as a Leo, and if you've one of my Leo/Aquarius clients, I've said this to you about being the Leo and like having Saturn and Jupiter opposite everything right now. It's like, good fucking God. All of this weight and pressure is just, it's very hard. And so when you have all that stuff in Aquarius opposite Sun, and the Sun was also in detriment in Aquarius, right? The Sun doesn't work that well in Aquarius. Like, finally, the Sun jumps into a fire sign. It jumps into its exaltation, and we're off to the races again. The ice is melting. The flowers are starting to grow. Sun's in Aries. Like, it's time to get turned on, essentially. And this is also the spring equinox. This is when the light starts increasing, or we're of course, this is equal day, equal night. But then from here on out, we're going. Like, it's time to take off. It's time to do stuff. Especially because Mars at this point is getting really close to the North Node. Mars at this point also, is this something that I even talk about? Did I even bring this up? No, of course, or no, I did bring it up. The next day, so let's actually talk about the next day. Venus enters Aries, and Mars trines Saturn. This is so good. This is so good. I can't, again, this really isn't that great. But because it's been so long, it's been so fucking goddamn long since we've had a good fucking decent transit between the fucking malefic planets. Like, Mars and Saturn have been zodiacally squaring each other since July. Like, that's okay. Like, if that's, you could just mark off 8 months on the calendar, nothing got done. Finally, we get a good transit, and Mars is cracked out on the North Node, and it's trining Saturn, where Saturn's gaslighting Mars, essentially, but in the good way, where Saturn's like, yeah, you got this, Mars, like, don't even worry about it, and Mars is like, yeah, I can do it. It's got, like, that Vince McMahon walk, you know, where he walks like this. Like, that's how Mars is basically running into the game right now. So you got to think, now with the sun in Aries, Venus in Aries, with Mars in Gemini, like, this is where, again, that coffee starts hitting, that caffeine really starts coming in handy. But with Venus going into Aries, this also changes. So Venus goes into detriment, right? Which, yeah, Venus in detriment is bad. We'll say that for namesake. But what is important, though, is that Venus has been combust, right? Combustion basically just means when a planet is right next to the sun. What happens when you're next to the sun all the time? You get burnt to a crisp. That's what happens when a planet's next to the sun all the time. It's not working that well. So the one thing is, like, when we go in Pisces season, all through the beginning of March, Venus is combust. So sure, things are enjoyable, but you can't physically see Venus, so you don't know what's going on with her. So it's hard to really feel out. Like, you know it's there. It's like when you're at a party and you know your friends are there, but you don't really know where they're at. So you're just kind of, I guess, vibing until you figure out where they're at. That's the same case. But when the sun goes into Aries and Venus goes into Aries, notice how close they are. We're eventually going to get to the Venus Cazimi, which we'll talk about that, but again, I think this is a little bit different because now that Venus goes into detriment, this is where the vibe changes. Where Venus was exalted, and then Venus goes into detriment, and then the sun becomes exalted. Like, this is really a quick vibe change, like a quick vibe change. Venus is about value, what we enjoy, our pleasures, and Venus in Pisces is very like, ooh, like, just soaks it all up, right? It takes anything. Venus in Aries is like, I want that, and I'm gonna take it. Like, Venus and Venus in Aries is like, Venus is all about receiving things, right? It's all about connecting. Venus in Aries is much more like, I'm gonna go take that. I'm gonna go grab that. Now, if you're someone like me who's a fire sign, that can be hot. But then also, Venus is in detriment in Aries, where Venus isn't necessarily good at just like going and getting things. She's not the best at it. That's Mars is a lot better at that. So with Venus in Aries, it's going to be like, this is what I'm passionately going for, but I'm struggling, getting what I want. But the sun's in Aries, where it's like, I have the fucking confidence that I'm just going to fucking do it anyway. But Venus is combust, right? Venus isn't working all that well. So it's like so I feel like with Venus combust, I don't know if that changed anything on your screen, but I just totally changed my screen. Anyway, with Venus combust in Pisces, this is like, we're enjoying things, but we're not sure on what we want. And then Venus goes into Aries. It's like, because I'm not sure what I want, like I want to be more clear on what I want even more now. And Mars is also trining Saturn. So Mars is in Gemini being like, I'm going to go. I mean, look, Mars on the North Node. Mars on the North Node is like straight up, this is that part of the night where, I mean, you guys have all been in situations where you've seen someone who is just like yacked, right? And you know that point where that person's just like, blah, 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 blah. Like, I mean, on a sick one. Mars is on a fucking sick one at this point. So you got all this Aries stuff bringing up Mars. Like, Mars is going to go, like, Mars is busy. Mars in Gemini on the North Node is driving on the phone, talking to someone in your car, driving a stick shift, eating food at the same time. Like, there is so much stimulation and action going on. And it's trining Saturn and Aquarius. We've got the right track. We've got the right notion. As long as it's all this is where the pace really gets picked up. So, if you're someone like me, again, where these past 6 months you've done basically nothing, there's been no energy, this is where, if again, and maybe you're feeling tired right now, sleep as much as you can, because it's not like we'll get more positive, like energizing energy, but this is really like you should get some rest for this, and make hay while the sun shines, right? So March 20th, when the sun enters Aries, the spring equinox, along with Venus, this Mars Saturn trine is going to be crazy. This is where you take that real deep breath of air and you're like you feel it, right? Like the adrenaline kind of sets in. Mars trining Saturn too. Again, we haven't had a positive transit like this, a constructive transit like this in a long fucking time. I mean, hell, look, Mercury is sextiling Uranus. Hey, even Mercury in Pisces getting a little bit of handout of something decent. And Mercury's pretty much fucked in Pisces at the moment. Because, again, Mercury's going to square Mars, but we're not there yet. In fact, that's actually the next thing. Let's actually talk about that. Because, again, yeah, we have Venus going into Aries, Mars trine Saturn, and then on the 23rd, Mercury will square Mars. Again, I'm so glad that we could start backtracking through stuff now. You guys have been with me for so long. I love every single one of you. July of 2020, 4th of July, that Mercury, I keep bringing up that Mercury-Mars square because it was so fucked. It was sensitive, it was hardcore, and then I talked about that Mercury-Mars square again when it was Mercury in Aquarius squaring Mars in Taurus. Now, Mercury in Aquarius, Mars in Taurus, that's Mars in detriment. So the fighting was very not necessarily there, and Mercury in Aquarius is just it was very passive, right? And a lot of stubbornness. This does not look stubborn at all. This looks like Mercury in Pisces squaring Mars in Gemini is like when someone just says something that they weren't aware that they shouldn't say, and it definitely is going to cause chaos. Mercury in Gemini squaring Mercury in Pisces squaring Mars in Gemini is lost in translation. Mercury in Pisces has no idea what they're trying to say. And Mercury's in the superior position. Mars is in Mercury's sign. So Mars is like, tell me, Mercury, what are you trying to do? And Mercury's speaking gibberish in Pisces. So it's like, okay, I don't know. It's like when a drunk guy says something crazy and you're like, yo, dog, like, what are you trying to say right now? And then they just start even saying even worse stuff. And you go like, okay, do I even get to be mad at this guy because he's like fucked up? And he's just saying all this crazy shit because he's fucked up? Or like, is this an issue? Because that's how, like, this Mercury-Mars square isn't going to be fun. This is going to be just like, this is one of those situations, it's just going to be confusing and a mental headache. Just walk away. This is on March 23rd. Like, March 23rd, and also with Sun on top of Venus, too. This isn't like one of those, like, sexy fun fights where, like, you can argue and it's tense. This is like you argue and things aren't the same after that. Like, things are kind of weird. I don't think this isn't going to be a fun time in the communication department. And that's really the fat chunk of March. And then we get to the closing out of March. Now, this is the important thing, and this is also where, well, I don't want to say the important thing. Let's just jump forward. March 26th. We have that Venus Cazimi. Two things are actually happening. One, Venus conjoins the Sun, and Mars conjoins the North Node. This is really, I think this is transit one of two that we have that are very like mental clarity at like insane levels, which I don't know if you guys have been like me lately, where it's just been like, huh, what? Like, I have no fucking clue. Like, all this Aquarius stuff is just like, what is, like, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I don't know what to do. I feel like I know what to do, but I don't, and it's very lacking. However, there's mental clarity moments that are coming up, and those mental clarity moments are going to be on March 26th when the Mars conjoins the North Node, and when the Sun conjoins Venus. So, first things first, this Venus Cazimi. Hot. Super hot. It's on Chiron. This is sexually healing, for one. Well, it's also going to be like on top of my Saturn, so I'm like really looking forward to it. But when you have a planet that's conjoining the Sun like this, for one, it's important to think of where Venus is at. Venus is at the farthest it is away from the Earth, right? Venus is on the other side of the sun right now. Venus is on her journey. Venus is going through something, right? Venus had her retrograde in last spring, where she went through the underworld, morning star, now she's going forward. This is where shit starts to click. And in a Kazemi, in this type of scenario, a planet is pretty much being purified. A planet is basically becoming new again. Like it's like it's you know, it's like after you break up with someone, you're kind of whack for a minute, and you're like, yeah, that was kind of shit. And then one day you're just like, I'm fucking horny. I'm gonna go, and I'm the shit. I'm gonna go. Like, I need to go talk to someone. Like, that's that this time. And this is on top of Chiron for one. So this is, I think, very healing in one sense. But healing in the sense where, again, I talk a lot about Chiron being about, like, alcohol and that open wound. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever been to the hospital, but hospitals don't feel good. However, healing doesn't necessarily mean feel good getting there. It is a process. But I think this is very empowering. Venus, again, rules fun. Venus rules pleasure. Venus rules connections. Venus rules rewards. Venus rules, and Venus is in Aries. Venus is like, I want to go for what I want. Venus is like, I want to engage with what I value. Venus is like, I want to, like, give me it. Like, that's what Venus in Aries is like, right? And on top of the sun, there's this, like, acceptance. There's, like, this surrendering to an intuition. There's this, I was talking to a client about this, actually, and I want to actually talk more about this, but in a lot of traditional, like, the idea of water signs and intuition is relatively, not necessarily new, but it's not always the case. There's a lot of traditional texts that actually say fire signs are intuitive, and I want to define the difference of that intuition, where I believe water sign intuition is much more gut feeling. It's much more, I don't even say primal, because I do feel like that's more fire sign, but fire sign intuition is much more instinctual. Fire sign intuition is, the way I was talking to a client about this was, it's kind of like tuning into a radio station. I don't know if you guys know how radio waves work, but radio waves are pretty much, in my opinion, one of the craziest technologies ever, because think about the radio, right? You're literally, like, how radio waves work is you literally put a metal bar to a frequency and you can just shoot information out into the air off of a wave form. Like, that's pretty wild, right? With what was I going to say with this? I had somewhere to go with that. I kind of lost my track of thought. I know I'm talking about this Venus combustion. Well, it's the fire sign intuition. That's where I was. The type of intuition I'm trying to talk about with fire signs and radio waves being so cool. It's like when you turn into the radio, like, you don't really know how the radio works. Like, you're not really sure how that information's coming into your car, but hey, you like the song, so you're gonna turn it up. So, like, the fire sign intuition is much more like, for example, like, you know what I talk about when I say the radio, but, like, if you could you explain how a radio works to someone? Probably fucking not. But you know how, but you could work a radio and you get the idea of it. That's very like fire sign intuition. It's like a Apple's user interface. It's very intuitive in that nature. Now, with that Sun Venus conjunction, this is like feeling that intuition, feeling that call, like, and being like, you know what? Like, this is what is the right thing to do. I know where I need to go now. And the other reason I say this too is Mars is on top of the North Node. Mars is, again, what we're fighting for, what we're going after, how we're fighting things. And Mars in Gemini is going to be like, this is what I know, and blah, 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 blah. And we're going to be like, it's going to be like tense around this time. The air energy, the air is going to be, woo, it's going to be a windy room. But Mars on top of the North Node, again, we're going to be intensely going after something. Intensely pursuing something, doing multiple things to get there, right? This is one of those moments where you're gonna get it and you're gonna pick up and go. It's like, you know, when it's like the way I've been trying to, thank God I remember this. This is. Do you guys remember your first game of Nose Goes? When all of a sudden everyone's just looking like this at you and they're like, oh, loser, like, you got to do whatever. It's like, oh, you didn't even, you got to pay attention, right? This is very much like the Nose Goes things, like when you're like, oh, like, you see two people doing it and you're like, and you just do it. You don't say anything, you just do it. Like, you don't go, oh, hey guys, like, you know what I mean? You don't make it fucking obvious. Like, it's, again, social cues. That's really what this is looking like to me. Pay attention to that shit. Pick up your surroundings. Wake up is a good way to look at it. Like, I made a tweet about this before, of course I deleted Twitter. But spiritually drink a cup of coffee. Like, you know, things are, you know, spiritually wake up, wash your face, stretch, you know, we had a slumber, things are starting to awaken and creak out now, and it's a new day. Now, that's the Venus conjunction with the Sun. Then we're gonna get this. Oh, actually, did I even talk about that Mars North Node thing? I don't feel like I didn't even get to talk about that much. Let me just hit. Well, I just think it's gonna be really intense here. There's gonna be more North Node stuff to talk about, but because I kind of also want to talk about the Mercury retrograde that we're gonna have in Gemini, because I just feel like that this Gemini season is just very, very wild. It's very, very intense. So Mars in Gemini is definitely going to be starting some of that beef. Now, the next thing that we've got going on, though, is, of course, the full moon in Libra. Now, this full moon looks pretty nice. It's just a full moon. Venus is still pretty much conjoining the sun. Of course, when Venus conjoined the sun, it was being purified, right? Doesn't mean Venus is strong. But it's not like we're going to be like, oh, you know, here we are, we're going for it. It's that feeling. Like, I said feeling for a reason. Like, things are going to be clear. Now, you actually going for what you want, manifesting what you want, whatever that looks like for you in your life, especially in the 5th house, that will come to fruition way later on down the road. It's just that Sun-Venus conjunction, Mars-North Node conjunction is like, that clarity hits. And you act different. You see things differently. Your values are clear. Like, there is no, I think, confusion. I think before that, there's going to be a lot of confusion. However, as Venus leaves that conjunction with the Sun, you know, just because you have a great idea, you also have to be able to figure out how to get to, you know, the conclusion that you want. You know what I mean? Like, sure, you have a great idea, but how do you get, like, but how do you do it? How do you, like, how do you, I guess, lay it out? And I think with Venus leaving, once Venus is done with its cazimi, Venus will go back to combustion, debilitating Venus. And of course, Venus is in Aries, so it's also debilitated. So it's just going to be very much like, there's going to be a lot of want to pursue something. And even though you may not necessarily know how you're going to get it, you're going to be very active about, yeah, I'm going to get it. And then we get to this full moon in Libra, which is very much... who do I know and who do I gotta connect with in order to get what I want? This moon in Libra, this full moon in Libra, I mean, the sun's in Aries though. Like, who are we? And this is the moon in Libra. Like, what does that mean for relationships? What does that mean when it comes to, you know, with the sun in Aries, we're engaged, we're, you know, on fire in a sense, we're hyper. The sun in Aries, we are feeling excited. With the moon, with the full moon in Libra, the moon, of course, is illuminating the dark. It's illuminating what we don't always see. You know, where do we need to have a little bit of balance? Sure, we're in Aries, like, we're in Aries season, right? We can't just go up to we don't just, like, you know, you don't just, like, go up to the Chipotle counter and punch the guy over the counter and then make your own burrito like an animal and just scarf it down. If you're really hungry, no matter how hungry you are, you have manners. And the sun in Aries opposite full moon in Libra is very much, sure, like, you want to get what you want, like, you've got to, like, earn it. You also have to work with other people to get that. Like, sure, all this Aries stuff is going to be fine, but this full moon in Libra is, how are you engaging with the other? And it's important because the moon is trining Saturn with this full moon. And this is so important because this is an opportunity where Saturn is now visible. We know what Saturn in Aquarius is doing. We know what it's about. This is a progressive and a harmonious aspect, a harmonious lunation to Saturn, where this gives us some strength and some stability when it comes to applying this new Saturn and Aquarius stuff. If you want to do something new, this is a time to implement it. Of like, you know what? Let's try this. Let's actually provide a solution. That's what this really looks like. And this, again, going back to last year, even January and February, March is a very different month. And like I said in my weeklies, it's things die down and then all of a sudden we're doing something else. And here we are. I think by that time we get to that full moon in Libra, we're going to go, holy shit, we're like, I mean, things even by the beginning of March are completely different. And then we get to the end of the month. We get to the last transit that I have for you guys, and that's going to be Mercury conjoining Neptune as Venus sextiles Saturn on the 30th. So, Mercury conjoining Neptune. Number one, this isn't good. This is confusion city. You know, think of the last time Mercury conjoined Neptune. This was like February of 2020 when everyone's like, what's coronavirus? Who cares? We don't know anything about it. It's going to be fine. Like, just do normal stuff. Like, and everyone was just putting out the wrong information and no one knew what was going on. Everyone was confused. Here we are again with Mercury conjoining the North Node, and there's just going to be more confusion at the end of the month. This is just going to be, again, we're going to be feeling very like, I'm going for what I want. I don't necessarily think we're going to be clear about how we're getting there. We're going to be like, have you guys ever seen, it's such an underrated movie, but it's Rat Race. It's from the 90s. If you haven't seen it, it's got all the 90s characters you can think of in this movie where they're all racing to win $1 million, and it's a bunch of billionaires all betting on them because they're all sick. What's funny about Rat Race is they're all like, we're going to get that $1 million, and all of the plans that they have to get that money they're just figuring it out. That's very much this. This is like, we're really hungry for something. No matter what, we're going to get it, even though we have no fucking clue how that's actually going to happen. Like, but this is that time where we're like, okay, like, we're going to get creative. We're going to, we're going to get creative. We're going to think of other ways around this. We're going to look outside the box, but also Mercury's conjoining Neptune. Maybe idealizing your situation too much. Mercury conjoining Neptune, being very confused about the details. Lots of confusion at this point. I don't think this is going to be fun. Now, also Venus sextile Saturn. That's the other thing. Also, another positive transit to the newly Saturn in Aquarius. By the way, Saturn is now at 11 Aquarius. Saturn is now hitting those second decan Leo placements, those second decan fixed sign placements. Saturn's coming after you. Wake up, get real. Saturn already came after me. Saturn's not done with me either. Saturn, another reason I deleted Twitter too is Saturn is stationing retrograde on my Mercury, exactly opposite my Mercury this year. And I'm really taking a sign from the universe that in some way, that means that I should stop talking. So I think maybe deleting Twitter would be a good idea. But Venus sextiling Saturn, like, put yourself out there. I don't know. Venus sextiling Saturn is like, yeah, good. It better. Venus and Aries sextiling Saturn and Aquarius is like, it's like Venus and Aries is like, give me this, and Saturn and Aquarius is like, okay, and Venus is like, oh, that was a little easier than I thought it was gonna be. So while I think there's a lot of good going on by the end of March, but the only bad is just Mercury conjoining Neptune. It's just confusing. It's just, there's still uncertainty. You still got to just kind of, Mercury in Pisces is really like, you just kind of have to trust your intuition and your faith. Like, you can plan, you can think all you want, but really you just kind of have to go with the flow sometimes. And especially too with all of the Aries stuff that we're going to be having, we're going to be wanting to pursue something very intensely, and I think Mercury in Pisces is just, it's like playing I make a lot of video game references for someone who doesn't play a video game, but it's also very easy when you're playing a video game. I say I never played video games. That's not necessarily true. I had at one point. This is the only game console that was actually mine for a minute. But I had a GameCube, and I had Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with that game. There's probably like 10 of you that are. But there's a part of the game where you got to take this ship off this island, and you take the ship off the island, and you get to this other island, and you got to like fight this guy. And basically, I gave up on video games after that because I legitimately got to this part, and I tried for like a year. Like I'm so bad at video games. Like I don't play them, but I could not get this fucking past this part. There was no YouTube to like find the cheat code or anything like that. And I couldn't get past this part. Like everything was confusing, but I was so eager to do it. And like Mercury in Pisces is like, there's no directions, there's no rules, there's no, map. It's just figure it out. Like touch, feel, use your senses, use what you can. So that game is notoriously difficult. I'm really glad that I'm not just bad at, because I'm like, I've been good at decent at other games, but God, that was a very hard game. For how cute that game is, it is a very, very hard game. But that's this month. Now let's I don't want to say give me all of your birth data, but of course give me your birth data. This might be the last time I do this though. This is a lot to do. Yeah, let's go into what this is going to look like for each zodiac sign. So again, if you're watching this on YouTube, from here on out, this is what we're going to do. And of course, you guys all have this shit waiting too. That's what's super funny. I love you guys. It's like, I feel like you guys like have it ready, like copy and paste, because it's like I get them all at once. But anyway, if you're watching this on YouTube, from here on out, this is where we're going to be doing the monthlies for each sign. Let's talk about, what time is it? 7? Okay, let's do Sag rising. Oh, thank you for writing. Yes, write your rising sign so I know. All right, let's do you first. I'm assuming that says L Wayne or Lewayne. We're just gonna say Lewayne because that's funnier. July 21st. Yo, what's good? 1980. 4:29 p.m. Shreveport. All right. So this is Sag Rising. Sag Rising gang, stand up. Salute. All right. Okay. So number one for and we're gonna go over these. I'm gonna try to go over these chunks for each sign. I'm gonna try to make it really fast too. So we're not totally just like I can talk. But I'm also trying to just be more, I guess, clear about what I say with stuff. First thing, Mars is going into Gemini. Mercury conjoining Jupiter. Sun squaring the nodes. Mars is going to your 7th house. Fuck around and find out. That's really it. Like, Mars is going to your 7th house. You're going to get in some fights. You're going to get some conflicts. Just know when to turn the volume down. Know when to not engage with people in an argumentative way. Especially, you've got this Venus in Gemini. I'm loving this Venus setup. Sick. Love that. But with Mars, I mean, Mars is going to go over your descendant too. Like, Mars going through your 7th house. Mars, the planet of fights and conflicts, in the 7th house of relationships. Like, you're going to get in some type of fight with someone or some conflict. Mars is in Gemini. You're going to use that. You're going to use your words. So try not to be passive. Try to not be like petty. Just mind your own business. But Mars is going to be in your 7th house. It's going to be angular. You're going to be really busy and very active. Mercury is going to be conjoining Jupiter in your 3rd house as a Sag rising. That, for me, I'm changing my relationship to the internet. I'm changing my relationship to communication. And with Mercury conjoining Jupiter, this is where you figure it out. Now, for you, Lewayne 1980, this is on your south node. So this is really kind of going like really accepting what you need to do, and what needs to be let go of and change. But that's good. And the sun is squaring the nodes. The south node is through your 1st house, where you're going to be increasingly feeling more and more drained as the south node gets closer to your ascendant. And the north node is going to be going over your descendant, where you're going to be feeling more and more active with other people. Now, with the sun in between them, your relationship to yourself and the relationships in your life are going to kind of change in a way, and it's going to kind of come from the home, family, living situation area. Now, this middle chunk of stuff, basically, New Moon and Pisces in the 4th house. Hey, clean your house. Have a fun time at your home. With Venus conjoining Neptune also, this would be really cool to like watch a movie at home. Honestly, that's probably what I'm gonna end up doing. Mercury leaves shadow, so things become really clear in the communication department for you. Yeah, and Mercury will also move into Pisces. So when Mercury moves into Pisces, there'll be much more of a focus on the home, on the family. You'll be wanting to like learn more, but there'll be some confusion, some miscommunication with family members, miscommunication in the home. So be careful. You have Mercury in Cancer and the Moon in Scorpio too. So this is gonna be trining your water stuff. So you're gonna know, like you're gonna feel it, but you may not see it if that makes sense. The next thing we've got going on is the sun will go into Aries for the Sag risings and go into your 5th house with the sun in Aries, Venus in Aries, all that 5th house stuff. Love, romance, sex, pleasure, creativity. There is a new beginning going on there for you about what your wants are, what your desires are, how you use your creativity and how you pursue that. That's getting a refresh this month. Mars is going to trine Saturn. So Saturn's in your 3rd house where you're starting to be more disciplined about your communication and your day-to-day operations. With Mars in Gemini, you're starting to actually be able to communicate that with people. Like the results are starting to show themselves by the time we get to middle March when it comes to the Saturn in the 3rd house, like being more strict and disciplined with how you communicate and actually addressing that with other people, confronting that with other people. Mercury is going to square Mars. Mercury will be in your 4th house, squaring Mars in your 7th house. You're going to get into a miscommunication with someone at home or the family. No surprise there. Mars is going to conjoin the North Node in the 7th house. You're going to be very active in a relationship. Probably that can be both fun and bad depending on who you are. That Venus Cazimi is happening in your 5th house. Again, a refresh and a renewal around love, romance, sex, and recreation. That full moon in Libra, are we friends? What are we? Are we fuck buddies? What is this? That's kind of what's going on for the Sag rising thing, but also this is much more about the 5th house is recreation, right? What do you want to do? What are you enjoying? And the full moon in Libra, who are you doing it with? And then Mercury conjoins Neptune in the 4th house, confusion, and Venus sextile Saturn, being able to communicate what you want. That's the Sag risings. Boom, done, out of here. Next up, we've got Militia Poo. I'm sure there's a bunch more comments, but I can't read them because I'm going through the other comments right now. So Militia Poo, you're next. I don't even know what you are. Also, if you guys want to donate, that would be super helpful too. If you want to donate, I should have a donate button on my Twitch. I don't know if the things are active to where it'll show a notification. Usually it shows a notification if someone donates, but I don't know if I have that turned on. I don't know if I did that. But if you guys donated to my channel, it'd be really cool. I'd really appreciate it. It helps me do this. And in fact, for some of you guys that missed what I talked about in the beginning, I'm going to make some changes to my channel and be doing better content. Now, all of my content is probably always going to stay for free. I like doing YouTube, right? But I'm going to reactivate my Patreon and do to where, I get a lot of people asking, how can I donate? How can I help? And I want to restart that Patreon to be able to give that. Wow, look at this. So we're doing the horoscopes for the Gemini risings, and look at this person. Jupiter on the ascendant here in Gemini. That's pretty crazy. But let's start talking about the Gemini risings. Gemini risings. Mars is going to your 1st house. First thing, you're gonna be pissed. You're going to wake up and choose violence. You are going to wake up and be like, you know what? Fuck everybody. Embrace it, I guess. Do you, in my opinion, Mars and Gemini. But you're just going to be very active, very engaged. Especially if you're very physically active, like if you're a big workout person, you're going to be very competitive, very active. Mercury's going to conjoin Jupiter in your 9th house. Hey, get a reading with an astrologer. Wink, wink, me. Because Mercury conjoining Jupiter in your 9th house, it's a great day to go and get maybe a reading from an astrologer. If you're taking some type of course, you're already getting more involved in your spirituality and your beliefs anyway. And Mercury conjoining Jupiter is where things really start to come together. Now for the militia, Mercury and Jupiter is going to conjoin on their Venus. So this is going to be really good. And I think you're going to uncover, because Venus rules your 12th house, there's going to be a lot of stuff that you uncover that you really enjoy. And also the sun will square the nodes. Well, we're not going to get too much into that. I'll probably just skip that. New moon in Pisces. New moon in your 10th house for the Gemini risings. Public reputation, career, how people see you. There's you get to kind of start new here, plant some new seeds. For you, Militia, this is happening on your Mercury and your Chiron. So there's definitely some healing happening here, and some sensitivity and some realizations. But all in all, positive and constructive. Venus is also going to conjoin Neptune in your 10th house, so things like a good career boost, a good career revamp, right? Like making your workplace look good. If you're working at home, like someone like me, like this would be a good time to invest in a nice camera and get your look set up nice, especially for the Gemini risings that do the Zoom type stuff. This would be a good time for that. Mercury leaves shadow out of your 9th house. The Gemini risings you've got a lot of questions for God. You're like, what's going on? Mercury leaves shadow. You figure it out and you get to finally move on mentally. But then Mercury moves into Pisces in your 10th house, where basically there's a shit show happening at work, which if you work in the service industry, like I used to be, server, barback, all that type of stuff. And, a fun night, like a busy Friday night, we call it a shit show. Sure, it's good. It's good. We all make money, but it's a shit show because everything's going crazy. That's going to be like Mercury and Pisces for the Gemini risings. Like you're ruled by Mercury. So as Mercury goes into Pisces in the 10th, that's good for work, but you might say something dumb or you might say something wrong and you might say something incorrect. And you might be very confused about what to say, but also like it's a shit show, but you're making money at the same time. And this is going to be pretty big too for you, Militia, because you got Mercury retrograde here anyway. The sun's going to go into Aries. Your birthday's going to start. You've got that sun-Mars thing, too. That Mars retrograde must have been pretty bad. But the sun's going to go into Aries. Venus is going to go into Aries. And we're going to have that Venus Cazimi literally on your sun. That Venus Cazimi is happening on your birthday. So, like, for you, like for one, this is a really big change in community relationships. The sun rules your 3rd house of your localized area and your 11th house of friendship. So a big change in your friends, your community, who you hang out with, your neighbors. Venus also rules your 12th house of hidden enemies and your 5th house of fun. So like this would be a really good time to go out and make friends with people. That's really it. I think you're just going to be much more socially active and engaging in a lot of different ways. I think you also might get in a couple fights or arguments and maybe realize people who aren't your friend. But for the most part, looking pretty fun for the Gemini risings here. Mars will trine Saturn. Mars will be in your 1st house, trining Saturn in your 9th. This is so important because Saturn in your 9th, you're like, what? You're questioning your beliefs, questioning God, all of the stuff. And as Mars is in your 1st house and you're being more active and you're, questioning more, engaging more, things are really going to start making sense. Like you're going to feel really clear about what your beliefs are and how you apply that in your life and how you apply that with yourself. But there's also going to be a sense of maybe a need to self-restrain. Mars and Gemini, sure, you can pop off, but Saturn in Aquarius asks you, like, do I need to do that? Mercury will also square Mars. Mercury's going to be in your 10th house, squaring Mars in your 1st. You're going to pop off probably, and you're going to say something dumb probably, and it's going to be confusing. And so, again, God, I can't emphasize this enough. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. This is the month to take that advice. We get to the end of the month here. Here again at the bottom. And that's when we're going to have, of course, the Venus Cazimi, that new stuff with friendships, Mars in the North Node. You're just going to be really actively engaged. Full moon in Libra. Really looking at, who am I with? And are these the people that I want to be with? Is this really, am I having fun? And I think the answer will be yeah. But then, of course, Mercury conjoining Neptune in your 10th house by the end of the month will just bring some confusion in the workplace. Bam, done. Gemini's over. Let me drink some water and let's get next up. Okay, so hold on, let me scroll back up. So the next person is going to be Brookie Shuffles. Brooke, what up? We got Taurus rising, so if you're a Taurus rising, that's where we're at as far as this goes. I hope you guys are enjoying this. I haven't been usually going this deep into them. Time, and also too, just to promote myself, you guys should be booking a reading with me. I want to read your charts, and I want to help guide you in your life because I love you. Mansfield, Ohio. There we go. There we go. Yeah. What up? It's Taurus rising. All right, let's start. We got 30 seconds on the clock. All right, for the Taurus risings, Mars is going to go into Gemini. Hey, you're not going to be mad anymore, but you're probably going to spend more money. Mars and Gemini, Mars burns and second house is cash. You're going to burn through some cash. You're going to be spending more money. You're going to have some more problems with money, or at least you're just going to be spending more than you kind of anticipated. So don't spend right now. Mercury is also going to conjoin Jupiter in your 10th house. So this is actually positive. Now that you're taking on these new responsibilities, all this new work, Mercury conjoining Jupiter, the resolution presents itself. So that's looking really great. We get the new moon in Pisces. This will be interesting for you, Brooke, because you've got this Mercury at 27 and a moon in Pisces too. So the new moon in Pisces will really be a big time of changing your friendships up. Venus will be conjoining during this new moon. On the new moon, it's a new moon in Pisces with Venus conjoining Neptune with Mercury leaving shadow all at once. And so with Venus conjoining Neptune, I think you're just going to be really enjoying your social, hanging out with people, your friends. I think you're going to be idealizing them, just really getting saturated in it, which is, it's also going to be opposite your Saturn. So there's some good and there's some bad to it. Again, have fun. That's the most important thing, is have fucking fun. And it's the new moon in Pisces. This is really a good time to just have fun with your friends for you fucking Taurus risings. Mercury leaves shadow. All of the drama is behind at work, especially for you, Brooke, because Mercury's stationed on your fucking south node. So that was a whole thing. And Mercury was also opposite your Mars. Jesus. God, we're going to talk about that one the next time we fucking have a session. What else is going on here? New moon in Pisces. Oh, yeah. Mercury moves into Pisces where, Mercury moving into Pisces, just vibing with other people, communicating in weird ways, talking more with friends, and it's going to get more convoluted. It's going to get more weird. As we move forward, when the sun goes into Aries and Venus goes into Aries, and we have the sun-Venus conjunction in your 12th house, this sounds like a whole new, again, I talked a lot about how last year with the Taurus risings, you guys all had anger in the background, but didn't know how to bring it out. The sun-Venus conjunction in your 12th house is unleashing, you're okay, I know who I am. Venus is your ruling planet, and you're gonna be okay, this is who I am. This is what I'm not. Fucking bring it fucking on. You're gonna get really, things are gonna get pretty intense, and it's gonna be come out of nowhere. Very much like an awakening, almost in a sense. Mars is going to trine Saturn, so Mars is in your second house, which, you're going to be spending more money, but hey, you got work security. You're the boss now. You're the manager. Mars trine Saturn's you got money to spend. You got checks to cash. You're busy. You got shit to do. But it's looking good as far as the work and money stuff goes. But Mercury will square Mars, of course, on the 23rd, and that's where you might have more of a miscommunication with friendships. Especially around possessions. Don't borrow, don't lend things to people, because there's just going to be this whole oh, I thought you said I could have it. And then you're going to be that's not what I said. And then people are going to be but I'm going to take it anyway. So be careful with your possessions and sharing it with friends. I think there might be this, blurred line around there. Mars will conjoin the North Node in your second house. You'll probably end up making a significant purchase of some sort. If not, you're just gonna be God damn, I need to stop spending money. And then we have that full moon in Libra in your 6th house. Now that you've unleashed the beast within, the 6th house is okay, but how do we unleash the beast every day consistently and within a orderly fashion, right? You're a Taurus, you're ruled by Venus. It's not you can do that every day. So it's going to be much more about balancing that on a habitual level. And then of course Mercury conjoins Neptune in the 11th house, and basically you have no idea what's going on with your friends and everything's confusing. And that's the Taurus risings. Bam, done. Moving on to the next one. We got, all right, this is intense. I don't think I've done horoscopes this fast and intense before. So the next one is Virgo rising, because we're going to do Christine Nunya. Clearly it is Nunya business. Nunya. April 16th, 1971. This is Virgo rising again, 3:50 p.m. Pontiac, Michigan. Virgo risings. All right, let's start. Mars goes into Gemini, it goes into your 10th house. Fights, conflicts, arguments in public. There's no getting around it. You're just gonna have a lot of fights and conflicts in public, and there's just no getting around it. It's just gonna suck. So again, just watch what you say and just try to walk away from the bullshit. Mercury's gonna conjoin Jupiter in your 6th house. So that's solutions with coworkers, solutions with employees, solutions with your habits, things starting to make sense. What are you doing every single day? Getting in a routine, getting in a rhythm, things and solutions becoming clear. We get the new moon in Pisces in your 7th house. So this is renewing relationships. This is going to be good for relationships. Go on a date, things are going to be hot and moist, especially for you, Christine. And you got Venus on the descendant and a new moon here, plus Venus will be conjoining Neptune on your descendant. Like, yeah, you're going to be googly eyes for someone, probably seeing them in rose-colored glasses, which, hey, have your fun. But this new moon in Pisces looks like a really hot date and a new beginning with relationships, really. Things are getting, Venus is hot, wet, and sticky. Like, make of that what you fucking will. And I think this new moon is definitely saying focus on this area. Mercury also leaves shadow by the time we get to the 6th. So that whole, work issue, labor issue, what you're doing every day issue, that's starting to get wrapped up by this point. And then Mercury will go into Pisces where you're going to start being much more invested with a relationship, talking more with people, being much more mentally focused on a relationship. The sun will go into Aries, Venus will go into Aries, and we have that Venus Cazimi in Aries. Now for you, this is also like on your Chiron too, so there's some sensitivity to this. But this is really, for the Virgo risings, what's hard about this is kind of like, bringing up stuff that you don't want to see, bringing up stuff you didn't necessarily know about, confronting your fears and not being afraid to face fear. Sometimes I feel like Virgo risings are very like the sky is falling. And Aries ruling your 8th house is very much like, sure, I feel like there's like, could be some timidness at times with Virgo risings, but like Aries 8th house is like in the face of, danger, like, especially you, because you have a sun in Aries, like you're like, yeah, no, I'm fucking intense all the time. Like I'm not timid. Like your sun in Aries in the 8th house, like you're fucking like an intense one, right? With the sun and Venus going into your 8th house, there's going to be much more focus and emphasis, but there's going to be this renewal, this fire that's kind of started where you're like, okay, like I know what you're especially for you, Kristen, you're going to be like, not giving a fuck about what anyone's got to say, but also too, there's going to be some scary stuff that you face, but also it'll be an intense, fun way to go about things. Hold on. I wish I could read your guys' comments while also talking at the same time. I have Mars and Venus and Gemini. If I could talk, listen, and read at the same time, I would be happy. Mars trine Saturn. Mars will be in your 10th house, trining Saturn in your 6th house. Mars in your 10th, you're going to be working a lot. You're just going to be really busy with what you're doing. And Mars trining your 6th is like you're going to start figuring, it's going to start being constructive. It's going to start working really well. But Mercury's going to square Mars, where you're going to get in some type of public fight or some type of public confrontation. Don't get canceled. Don't get, just mind your fucking business with Mercury and Pisces. But also with Mercury and Pisces, like, it's going to be so easy to be oblivious to what you say. Like, just check in. Like, really listen to what you're saying, especially with Mercury in 7th house, especially for you, Christine, too. You got Venus on the descendant. Things are so nice in relationships, but Mercury can really make shit kind of like difficult to that could really ruin the fun really quickly. Also too, I've gotten 2 donations, so shout out to Lewis Porter and Brooke Yoder. You guys are real. I think I turned it off on my thing, but thanks for the donations. Then, basically the next thing, you have Mars on the North Node. I think you're just going to be working at intense rates. Mars is going to conjoin your North Node on the midheaven. Like, you're probably going to get a fight with someone. Not like a fist fight, but like, you're probably going to get in a confrontation. And it's just going to be annoying. Like, there's just no, like, if you work in sales, you're just going to have someone come in who's just an asshole. And there's just no avoiding it. Just deal with it, I guess. And then you have the full moon in Libra in your second house. The big thing with all of the Sun and Venus in your eighth house, there's a big focus on money, other people's money, things like debts or inheritances or shared resources. And with the Sun in your eighth house and the full moon in your second, there's this big relationship with what is mine and what is not mine. What is mine and what is theirs. And how does their or other people's money contribute to my money? What's the relationship dynamic between that? This full moon is going to be on your Uranus, Christine. So expect the unexpected. I would say expect an unexpected bill. And yeah, that's the Virgo risings. Who is motherfucking next? Canceled Kill It. That's funny. It's okay. I was canceled Cam. I've gotten canceled like 6 times. It's whatever. I feel like you don't actually get a true online experience until you get canceled at least like once. Like you're not really online. Hold on, I'm scrolling back up. Where the fuck was I? Oh, here we go. Taurus telepathy. You have been chosen. I think of that all the time for the Toy Story movie. Missoula, Montana. You're from Missoula? Word. I have family in a very rural part of Montana that is very close to Missoula. It's like an hour west of Missoula. Missoula is so cool. Montana is so fucking slept on. And everyone is like really nice. It's like, imagine like, you know, what's funny about Montana people is the caricature of like, Jesus Christ, that is really loud. The caricature of like mountain old white people that are really nice. That's not true anywhere in America except for Montana. Everyone there is cartoonily, like literally like caricaturally nice. It's really funny. Wow, look at you, Taurus telepathy. Woo. You got a lot going on. One thing I got to say for the Pisces risings, especially for someone like you, is spring of 2022 is going to be really, really good for you guys. Number one. But 2, yeah, especially for you got this Venus Jupiter. Jesus Christ. Man, March looks pretty good for you. Let's go ahead and 30 seconds on the clock. Let's see if we can do it. Mars and Gemini. This is for the Pisces risings out there. Mars and Gemini. Problems with the home, family, living situation. You're gonna get in fights and arguments. Mars is this is a night chart, so honestly, this would be a good time to like reconstruct your room. You know, maybe you're gonna be overstimulated, I think, by your house, and you're gonna need to like do something. Mercury's gonna conjoin Jupiter in your 12th. There's gonna be a lot of things that you didn't know that reveal themselves, and you're gonna go, okay, I think I know what is clear and what's not clear. I mean, everything is in your 12th house, so like a lot of stuff is being revealed, a lot of stuff is coming out, and I think with Mercury conjoining Jupiter, you finally get to a solution. And you finally go, okay, this is what needs to be made sense. And Mercury rules your 7th house of relationships. And I mean, Jupiter rules your 1st house of yourself. So this really could be, you know, learning about a relationship. Maybe someone not being honest or something not being truthful. Shout out to the donation from Anne Hancock. But we get to the new moon in Pisces, though, which this is what I'm kind of captivated by for your chart, because the new moon's in Pisces in your 1st house, right? New moon, new you. That's what I always like to say with the new moon in your 1st house. But it's also Venus conjoining Neptune, which is going to be your Venus return with Venus with Neptune on top of your Venus. So if you were like, for example, like an artist and you wanted to put like a music video out and be like, for the love of fucking God, put it out on that day. Like there's a lot of good, like for one, you're probably going to look really good. You're going to feel really good. You're going to feel very like high in a sense. You're going to be feeling lit. You may not even feel it like right now, but when you look back, you're like, damn, I was lit back then. New moon, new you. For you, Taurus, it's gonna be a pretty big new moon. You're gonna be pretty lit up. Mercury leaves shadow. You know, you're starting to come out of that 12th house fog where, you know, things are starting to, you know, make a little bit more sense. Things are starting to become a little bit more clear and you're feeling more of yourself. Mercury's gonna go into Pisces where you're gonna start being more self-expressive. And what I love about Pisces, like Mercury and Pisces in your 1st house is so like, again, you don't know what you're saying. No one knows what you're saying, but everyone is picking up what you're putting down. So, like, it works. Like, you're just going to be, like, channeling things correctly. Like you're gonna be there's not gonna be any fuzzy distortion in your tuning. Like you're gonna be on a very clear channel, even though you may not like the channel's really clear, even though the radio station's in a language you don't speak. but but it's very clear, so you're like, I can hear this. Sun goes into Aries, Venus goes into Aries. We have that Sun Venus conjunction. It's on your Mercury, so this looks like it's much more of a bigger deal for relationships, especially for people that you maybe live with. But the Sun's going to go into your second house, Venus going to your second house. More focused on your money, more focused on your assets, your resources, what you own. Could even be your food, could even be what you're buying. Maybe needing to buy some stuff that you got to take care of. The Sun Venus conjunction is also a time where you're going to maybe start budgeting, or maybe you're going to start saving up, or maybe this would be a good time to make a big personal purchase that you wanted to. Like that Sun Venus conjunction, if I could schedule it right, I'm using that as a tattoo day. And like the Sun Venus in the second house, like making a big purchase is a good, I think a way to look at that. Mars is going to trine Saturn. So with Saturn in your 12th house and Mars in your 4th, I think with Saturn in your 12th, you're learning about who's an enemy and who's a friend. And I think with Mars in the 4th, Mars trining Saturn, they're not necessarily being your friend doesn't necessarily make them your enemy. But I think this would also be really having some type of constructive boundary or understanding when it comes to living situation stuff, family stuff, and being able to take care of things that are hidden and things that are unforeseen, and making sure that they don't become problematic. And Mercury is going to square Mars, so Mercury is going to be in your first house squaring Mars, and you're going to get into a verbal conflict with someone at the home. Again, there's no way around it. It's going to be you. That's the I hate to be the guy that says this, but it's going to be you. You're going to say the wrong thing. And that's okay. I mean, look at Taurus telepathy. You're Venus, Jupiter, and Pisces. You can get away with anything. You can get away with murder. With that type of shit. Be nice, I guess. Mercury squaring Mars, though, you're going to get into some type of verbal miscommunication. And then full moon in Libra, basically full moon in your 8th. Now that you've either made this big spending thing or you started this new budget, this full moon in your 8th is like, okay, maybe you're making more money. What do you need to take care of? What bills do you need to take care of? What expenses do you have to take care of? And that's going to be the Pisces risings. Let's move on. So we've done let me go through here real quick. So we've done Sag rising, we've done Gemini rising, we've done Taurus, we've done Virgo, we've done Pisces, and now we're on to Scorpio because Yanelli, Yanelli slays. That's who we're doing. I called you Yanella. Yanelli slays. Do you slay, or are you just saying that? Oh, you're a Leo. Yeah, no, you slay. 3:01 p.m. in Tepic. This is the first chart I've ever casted where I've never heard of Nairit. I have no idea where that's even at. Oh. Neither does hold on. Neither does my thing. See here? Let me pull this up for you guys. Did I even spell that right? Hold on. Let me go back. Let me scroll back up. I'm sorry this is taking a minute. Don't yell at me, please. I feel like there's people on my YouTube that just they're like, why aren't you perfect? I'm like, I'm sorry. See, hold on. Did I not spell that right? Nayarit. Oh, there we go. Okay. I spelled it wrong. I fixed it. There we go. Okay. Scorpio rising. Ooh, geez. 29 Scorpio rising. So this is in Mexico. Okay. I was like, where the hell is that? Okay. So for the Scorpio risings, let's go now. Mars is going to be in Gemini in your 8th house. Mars in your 8th house. Don't get involved in other people's stuff. You Scorpio risings are so... You guys just love fucking getting your face in other people's stuff. You're like, no, I'm not into drama, but you guys are totally into drama. Mars in the 8th house is like, you're going to be really involved in other people's shit. And sometimes, there's power and control that comes out of that. and sometimes you get your ass kicked. I think Mars in the 8th house is just be careful about what you get yourself involved with when it comes to other people's stuff. Know what's yours and know what is not yours. Mercury is going to conjoin Jupiter in your 4th house. This is, the living situation thing that you've been battling back and forth. It gets resolved. There is a solution, and you go, okay, now I know where I'm going to live. We get the new moon in Pisces in your 5th house. Hell yeah, for you especially, Yaneli, this is on your Jupiter. This is looking like a hot date. New moon in your 5th house on Jupiter. Venus is going to be on Neptune, trining your Mars and Venus. This is looking hot, sexy, fun. Go on a hot date. Make it intense for you. I mean, look at all this water stuff. This is going to be very fun for you. But for all the Scorpio risings out there, this is definitely like, go on a date, have fun, and like enjoy yourself. Yeah, especially with this chart. Venus is going to conjoin Neptune. Like, you're going to be really like having a good time. Also, just having a good time in general. Period. Mercury also leaves shadow, so the whole family living situation stuff is done by this point. And we get to March 15th, and that's when Mercury enters Pisces, and now the mental focus is on desire and what you want and your creativity. And you're not just enjoying it, but now you're thinking about it more. Now your mind is more focused on it. And that's where, of course, Mercury likes to play games. But the sun will go into Aries. Venus will go into Aries. Sun's going to go into Aries. You're going to go, like, for one, I don't know a Scorpio rising that isn't like, and of course this isn't true for every Scorpio rising, but a lot of Scorpio risings I know are very athletic in some sense, and they love, of course, I mean, like Aries 6th house, like gotta engage, gotta do every day. And Sun's gonna go through your 6th, get in that routine, get in that, get in that zone. Venus is gonna go through your 6th house, so you're gonna be much more focused on like, being like, what do I want and how do I do what do I do every day to get what I want. There's going to be that Sun-Venus conjunction in the 6th house. This is going to be inspiring new habits, inspiring new routines that are much more healthy for you, especially too, maybe even a new relationship. Now, Mars is also going to trine Saturn. So Saturn's in your 4th and Mars is in your 8th. This is definitely defining what's yours, again, and what's not. But Mars trining Saturn too, this would be good for like signing a lease, or I would even say buying a house in some weird way. But this is just, Saturn in your 4th where things are starting to get very constructive in your living situation. Maybe even there's some boundary issues. Mars in your 8th is there's something that's helping you along the way. Or something else of someone else's that's helping you along. But then we get to Mercury squaring Mars on March 23rd. And with Mercury in your 5th house squaring Mars in the 8th, so specifically to sex and relationships, like, you're going to probably have a miscommunication, and this is where it's going to be important to like understand boundaries, and understand again what's yours, what's not, because Mars in the 8th house, it's very much like, it's like when you're at someone, it's like when you're a kid and you're at their house and you're like playing with their toys and it's fine until it's not. And that's why I feel like Mercury in the 5th house, it's all fun and games until it's not. And for the Scorpio risings, that's what I really see here. Now, it's not necessarily, well, it's kind of like when you're a kid too. It's like it's all fun and games. Not some kid will get hurt, right? And he, let's say he barely gets hit in the head or something, and he starts crying, and ruins all the fun for everyone. It's not even that big of a deal. That's what this kind of looks like. This doesn't look like the end of the world, but it could end things temporarily. But again, this is a very fuck around, find out. And another saying I've been saying lately is, you play stupid games, win stupid prizes. That's what's going to happen here. So just be careful when Mercury squares Mars. And basically, yeah, we get that, full moon in Libra in your 12th house, which is what's important about the 12th house is the 12th house is hidden issues. The 12th house is uncertain things that you don't know, things that you're not aware of. And as there's a lunation brought up here, now that you're focused on your habits, your day-to-day, the problems are going to reveal themselves when the full moon happens. And bam, that's the Scorpio rising horoscope. I gotta catch my breath there for a second. Let me. I love how everyone's just becoming Kate's friend in the group chat. Shout out Kate Killett. Hold on, I gotta scroll back up. Oh wait, hold on. I'm scrolling up and I'm gonna skip a bunch of people, so don't get mad. But I'm gonna do Q Deserts. Q Desserts, only because you were born in Riverside. Shout out the I fucking E. What's good? That 951. I'm also from the IE, so I was like, you know what? We're gonna do hers too. So this is for the Libra risings out there. We're gonna talk about what's going on in your life, Libra rising, 6:05 p.m. in Riverside. Yeah, Riverside, so fucking funny. And this is again for the Libra risings. All right, let's see. Where do we start? Okay. Wow, your chart looks pretty fun. Okay, whew. This is a lot. We're 6 signs in. Now we're on the 7th sign. I gotta wrap this up here. Libra rising. Mars is gonna go in Gemini in your 9th. You're gonna have your Mars return, which shout out to the Mars and Geminis. I'm also a Mars and Gemini. We got a lot of great qualities, but when you have your Mars return, you're going to just be more amped up than usual, especially relationships for you, since your 7th house ruler is Mars. But Mars in your 9th house, shaking your fist at God, not having the best time with learning or far distance traveling, getting in fights with teachers. You're going to be pursuing more higher minded interests, but you're going to be really agitated on your way there. Mercury's going to conjoin Jupiter in your 5th. You're going to start becoming a little bit more clear about what you want, about what you desire, about recreational activities and what they mean for you, getting involved into something, new that you haven't done before, finding an opportunity with it. Then we have the new moon in Pisces in your 6th house. This is really about okay, what do you need to change in your routine? What do you need to change, and where do you need to put more good things into your routine? This could be relaxing more. This could definitely be just putting more pleasure things first and not so rigid. That's how I would look at that. Mercury leaves shadow through your 5th house, so you've definitely gone over this whole 5th house of love, romance stuff. So you could have had a fling, or you've been really going okay, what do I even want? What is this life for? What's going back? Very much trying to figure out what you want. That's now done at this point. And then Mercury will go into Pisces in your 6th, where you're probably going to have miscommunications with coworkers, miscommunications with pets. You're going to kind of be confused on your day-to-day schedule and routine. It's not going to be the most fun. But then the sun will go into Aries with Venus. It will be your birthday, so happy birthday. But as the sun and Venus go into your 7th house, big focus on relationships. The sun is your 11th house ruler, Libra risings. So when you have your 11th house ruler of friendships and your 7th house of relationships, it sounds to me like a friend becomes a partner. There's a big focus on relationships. There's a big renewal here with Venus and the sun going, or Venus going Kazemi, especially since Venus, Libra risings. Venus is your ruling planet, and it's going conjunct in your 7th house. This looks like a start of a new relationship or a change in relationships, especially because the 8th house, Venus also rules your 8th house of other people's stuff. So this is definitely also being clear about what's yours and what's the other person's. Mars trine Saturn. So Mars is going to be in your 9th house. What you're doing, what you're learning right now, what you're doing that's very wax on, wax off, you're starting to really enjoy. You're going, wow, actually learning this, even though it's hard, is fun. Even though this is challenging, I'm having a blast, which I think is really cool. I think you'll really like the growth that you get in March. Mercury squares Mars, though. So Mercury's in your 6th house squaring Mars. There's going to be a miscommunication. There's going to be some type of fight. Disagreement with beliefs, disagreement with ideas, and just stop talking. Just so many of this month's problems could be solved by just simply not opening your mouth. That's my advice for every sign for March. But then we have Mars conjoining the North Node in the 9th house. Again, just pursuing, I guess, more of what you're wanting to learn, especially the relationships. And then we get that full moon in Libra, which is very much okay, now that you're engaged in these relationships, where do you fit in the picture? Now that there's this person, where do you come into play, especially in terms of career, since the moon rules your career. And bam, that's time. That's the Libra rising horoscopes. What the fuck is good? I hope I got that quick. Now let me go back to the other. Hold on. So that's Libra risings. The next one is going to be Cathalphones. Fonzie. I don't know how to say that. You're next. Cancer risings. This is for Cancer risings, February 4th. Happy birthday. 1999. I know it's only like 3 years away from me, but that makes me feel old. 3:13 p.m. in Point Claire, Quebec. Of course it's not going to do that. Give me a second. You got to just put Canada. Astro Gold is like, what's a Quebec? We only know Canada. Canada. There we go. All right. Cancer risings. Jesus Christ. That 8th house stellium. I'm sorry. R.I.P. All right. Cancer risings. 30 seconds on the clock. Go. Mars is going to go into your 12th house. In one way, you're going to go insane. Mars in your 12th house, you're just going to be like angry and you're not going to know why. And you're going to be like lashing out and you're not going to know why. And you're going to be self-sabotaging and you're not going to know why. So just try to chill. Definitely like work through. You're going to be like working through some angers and fights and conflicts in ways that you're like Mars in the 12th is like you got to really sit on your issues before you solve them. Mercury's going to conjoin Jupiter in your 8th house. So this Mercury retrograde has been fucking you up specifically. But Mercury retrograde in your 8th, there's some type of solution. So the stuff that you've had to borrow or 8th house is other people's stuff, other people's property, shared resources, whatever issues you've had during there, the solution really comes about. There's some type of agreement that gets made. Yeah, I would say it's much more of an agreement, if anything. We have the new moon in Pisces, which is going to be a new moon in your 9th house. It's going to be Venus conjoining Neptune at the same time. So really good time to get into, study something, get into your spirituality, meditate, reflect, you'll be this is a really good time to like journal, just get spiritual, just think about shit, really reflect. That new moon looks really nice in those types of terms for you. But the sun will go into Aries, Venus will go into Aries, or actually before we even go into that, my bad, Mercury leaves shadow, so that whole issue gets done. But then Mercury goes into Pisces, where your mind is going to be much more focused on spiritual matters, and it will be a little bit confusing at first, but you're just going to be very involved in just watching and learning. The sun goes into Aries, Venus goes into Aries, where you're going to be doing much more with your work and your career. There's a new resetting there. There's some positivity happening there, but you're going to be very ambitious about going for what you want. Things will look really good too. You'll look good in public. Like you're going to have a good public viewing. People will like you. Mars will trine Saturn. So Mars in your 12th, trining Saturn in the 8th house. Finding private ways to deal with your anger will be a really good mitigation of any type of fear that you're facing right now. Like Saturn in your 8th house is like you just got a lot of anxiety because there's a lot of uncertainty around everything, and you just know something's coming up, but it's just a matter of when. And like Mars in your 12th house is like what you really need to do is find like private ways and like ways to isolate yourself to really work through those issues, and don't just self-sabotage, because it's going to be really easy to do that type of stuff. And then Mercury will square Mars, so Mercury's going to be in your 9th house, of course, squaring Mars. You might have a misunderstanding or a miscommunication that brings up issues you didn't see before, especially when it comes to like work. But I wouldn't. Also, too, with a spiritual understanding, you might like, for example, it's really easy to like misunderstand things when it comes to astrology, and this could be like, you misunderstand a concept and it's like the wrong concept or something like that. I wouldn't worry about it that much though. We get the Venus Cazimi in your 10th house again, a refresh and renewal there. Mars conjoins the North Node in your 12th, very actively pursuing things maybe more in isolation. Full moon in Libra, which you of course have the moon in Libra, so this is going to be a very big focus on like, this is what I'm doing in my life. where am I centering myself? What does that mean for me, right? Like Aries in the 10th is like, this is what I'm doing, but in the 4th, like, is that creating a peaceful environment where you live? Is that making you feel centered in your foundation? And boom, time. That is Cancer rising, horoscope. Next up, we've got Capricorn rising. Hold on, we've done how many now? I want to just go over this. So we've done Sag rising, Gemini rising, Libra rising, Taurus rising, Virgo rising, Pisces rising, Scorpio rising, Cancer rising. Now we got to do Capricorn, and then what? Aries, and then Leo. And Aquarius. That's what it is. Let's do this. Let's do this Capricorn one. So this is for the Capricorn risings. This is April for Detroit. That sounds like you're running for office or something. February 19th. Happy birthday. Oh my God, your birthday's today. Happy birthday. Watching me on your birthday, you could be doing so many. Well, actually, you probably can't be doing a lot of other things right now. Well, I'm glad that you're watching. Well, at least sometimes I feel bad, like for people that put their information, that maybe they leave before I pick them, and then I pick them and they're not even here. But I'm sure you're here. Capricorn risings. Where do we begin? 30 seconds on the clock. Whew, let's go. Mars goes into Gemini. Mars is going to go into your 6th house. Busy, busy, busy. Work, 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 work. For you, Mars is going to square your sun. Well, we'll get there. Mars is just going to go into your 6th house for the Capricorn rising. So for the most part, you're going to be pretty busy, pretty active, doing everything, or pretty just engaged in your day-to-day habits. Mercury is going to conjoin Jupiter, of course, in Aquarius in your 2nd house. This will be big for you, specifically because you have Mercury in Aquarius in your 2nd house. So this is going to be like good news revolving money, good news revolving big purchases. You probably had an unexpected expense, probably an unexpected card expense too. Could be maybe some extra money comes in randomly and you can take care of the car stuff that you've got to take care of. There's going to be a new moon in Pisces. Hell, you might even buy a new car. This could just be a big focus on short distance traveling, maybe buy a bicycle if you're an inner city type of guy. New moon in Pisces, changing up your communication. This would be a good time to journal. This would be a good time to just talk with people, share things, connect with people that are around you locally too. I think this is going to be a time where you're really idealizing your local neighborhood. And also too, you're just going to be very expressive in a very heartwarming way. So I think it's just going to be good to really, find people to connect with, to share those emotions with. Because Mercury will also leave shadow, which is important for you because, again, you have this Mercury placement. So this money stuff that you've been focusing on is, resolved at this point. And you can kind of move forward. And Mercury will go into Pisces, which will be a pretty big deal for you, which this might, because the sun rules your 8th house specifically for you, this looks like to me, I'm like, oh, did you, I don't know, possibly take a loan out from a sibling? I'm sure that's not even right or anything, but the way I would look at Mercury conjoining your sun once it enters is, handling that type of situation. But Mercury going into Pisces in your 3rd, understanding how you communicate, the means in which you communicate. There's going to be a big focus on how do you actually express your message for all the Capricorn risings. Sun will go into Aries, Venus will go into Aries. You're going to have a whole restart and a refresh around your home and your living space, especially because you've got the South Node here. So this looks like maybe even a move, but I would say much more for the Capricorn risings, spending, really fixing up your place. If you've been trying to fix up your place or spring clean, this is going to be spring cleaning. Really organizing things and refreshing your living space is a good way to look at it. Re-energizing your living space. Mars is going to be in your 6th house, trining Saturn in your 2nd. Hey, Saturn in your 2nd, you need to be more responsible with money. You need to be more mature about money, but that's okay because guess what? You're making more money. Because you're working more. You're more busy, so you're going to be making more money and be able to save more of it. So that's good. Mercury's going to square Mars. Once Mercury's in your 3rd house, squaring Mars in your 6th house, for those Capricorn risings, you're going to get in a miscommunication with a coworker. You're going to get in a fight with a coworker, maybe even a sibling. Again, you can't avoid the verbal conflict. There's no avoiding it. But then we'll have that full moon in Libra for you guys, which is going to be in your 10th house. So there's a big focus again. There's now that your Sun and Venus stuff in the 4th house, now that you're centered, now that you have a foundation, now that you're, your living space is ready to go. What does that mean for work? What does that mean for public reputation? What is being illuminated here? It's basically just going to be a big look at your workspace. And I've been doing pretty good. 5 minutes. 5 minutes for each sign. That's still kind of a lot, though, because that's still an hour. 5 times 12? Yeah, that's about an hour. Jesus. Okay, so, all right, we're at 2 hours streaming, too. This is going to be a long. Thank you guys for sticking here all the way to the end. The 26 of you that are still here. Whoops. Let me scroll back up. We are the next one. I'm gonna do Miss Llewellyn because that's what's next. Even though Miss Llewellyn did not put their rising sign, but we're gonna see what it is anyway. Because I don't even know what I need. What are the rising signs I'm looking for? I'm looking for an Aries rising. We haven't done that. We have not done hold on, let me see what this is. Did we do an Aquarius rising? No, we haven't done an Aquarius rising because we've done. So I need an Aries rising after this. Oh, I've got one. Thoth 402, you're next. Aries, we did Taurus, we did Gemini, we did Cancer, we did Leo. We did Leo. No, we didn't. Did we do Leo? Someone please tell me if we did Leo or not. We did Virgo, we did Libra, we did Scorpio, we did Sag, we did Capricorn, Aquarius. So yeah, Aries and Leo. That's weird that I've waited till the last to do the fire signs. Anyway, I'm like running out of breath here. 30 seconds on the clock. Mars and Gemini for the Aquarius risings. Mars in your 5th house. Fun. Sexy times. Very active, very engaged, very creative, very procreative, very recreational. Just very active in general, doing the things that you want to. Mercury's going to conjoin Jupiter in your ascendant. There's a lot of mental clarity about yourself that you're going to be getting, which is really good. Like you're just going to be feeling very clear and positive about who you are. There's a new moon in Pisces, and that's going to be big for you, Miss Llewellyn, because it's going to be a big look at your money and your finances. Resetting things. Venus is going to be conjoining Neptune in your 2nd house, so making a significant purchase, things looking good. Resetting finances could literally just be from making a bigger purchase. Where are we at? New moon in Pisces? That's right. And then Mercury, of course, will leave shadow, so that whole "who are you" question that you've had for the past month or two, that's now done. Mercury's going to move into Pisces in your 2nd house, where you're going to be much more focused on your money, which that may or may not be a good thing, because Mercury in Pisces, you're going to think you know how much money you have, and you might be wrong. But then the Sun is going to go into Aries. Venus is going to go into Aries. You're going to have this kind of new start with communication, writing. You're going to be more creative, I think, at this point. You're going to be much more engaged in your day-to-day activities. This is looking great. Mars is going to trine Saturn. So Mars in your 5th house, trining Saturn in your 1st house. Like you being creative, actually just having fun is really going to affirm a lot of who you are and your identity. Which is looking, again, really fun and positive. Mercury is going to square Mars, though. So with Mercury in your 6th house, Mercury in your 2nd house and squaring Mars in your 5th, you might have spent money that you didn't have, or you might have bought something impulsively, and then a bill came up, and you're like, whoops, maybe I shouldn't have spent that money. So be careful about money that you spend in more towards the end of the month. And then when you get that full moon in Libra, really, that's like the only really thing going on. This is, again, a big look at your spirituality, your beliefs. The Sun and Venus in your 3rd is very much like, what are you doing every day? Like, how do you apply what you know? How do you apply what you believe? And that full moon in Libra is asking you, well, what do you believe? If you're asking yourself, how do you apply it? And boom, 5 minutes. That was 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Now we're done with the Aquarius risings. Let me go back up a little bit. Go back to my Aries risings. That was Where are you at? Thoth 402. That's right. There we go. So this is for the Aries risings. Gosh, I drink a coffee before this, and it took all the caffeine in order for me to get through this. I am exhausted. Oh, shout out to April Terry, the person who had their birthday. They just PayPal'd me. They sent a donation. They're great. Shout out. Happy birthday again. Oh, Thoth 402. What time are you born? Oh, if you're an Aries rising, I guess I'll figure it out. Omaha. There you go. So you're born at like PM. Okay. Woo. Okay. You're fun. So, Aries risings, 5 minutes on the clock. Let's go. Mars is going to go into Gemini, into your third house, where you're probably going to be a little bit more spicy in your tone of voice than normal. But you're also just going to be more actively engaged in your world, doing things on a day-to-day level, just taking care of shit. But focus on your communication too, and you might have a little bit more of a pissed off tone. So just kind of watch what you say around people. I don't think people will like that. Especially because for you, Thoth 402, Mars is going to start squaring your Mars, and that might not be fun. And Mars is going to go opposite your Venus too, so there might be a little bit of edginess that isn't taken all too well. Mercury will conjoin Jupiter in your 11th house, so this is where I think the friendships are renewed. I've talked a lot about with the Aries risings and all the stuff in your 11th house, new community, new friendships, and Mercury conjoining Jupiter is where that really feels real. Like it's starting to feel real that you're involved in something now. There's that new moon in Pisces that's happening in your 12th. That's clearing out all the gunk. You've had a lot of gunk in your 12th house, and this is really kind of like setting a new, like turning a new leaf, setting a new stone, feeling like really, it's like when you delete all of your cookies or all of your history on your browser. Like it just frees up all of that space. And I think with this new moon in your 12th house, just clean out the gunk that you've kind of had. Who are you? What do you do? Get a rinse out. Wash your face, spiritually wash your face. Mercury leaves shadow at this point, and Mercury will go into your 12th house where you will be much more focused on repressed, unacknowledged parts of yourself. Anything that, you don't want to look at is going to get brought up. But, that's just the name of the game. But Mercury in Pisces is going to be like deciphering things that don't make sense. Then, of course, the Sun and Venus are going to go into Aries. You're going to feel charged up for you personally, Thoth 402. You're going to be looking good. You're going to be feeling good. You're going to be telling everyone, you're just going to be like, kind of fuck with me energy. Like, you're going to be on a sick one. So you'll be feeling great. And the Aries risings in general are just going to be like feeling confident. Also, too, Sun and Venus conjoining, like doing something new with your looks. Spending even money on your looks. Maybe spending a bigger amount of money on a haircut or a new hairstyle or even just a wardrobe. You could definitely see that with that Sun-Venus conjunction in your first house. Mars will trine Saturn. So again, Mars is in your third house where you're engaged, you're busy, and you're doing more community work. Like you're just in a good system. You're in a good routine, and it's healthy. It's nice at this point. But Mercury squares Mars, of course. So Mercury in your 12th house squaring Mars and Gemini. You're going to say something, and you're going to go, whoops, was that me? I didn't say that. Mercury square, like, everyone, there's no one safe after the Mercury Mars square. Everyone's going to fuck up saying something. Then we get, of course, that Mars North Node in your third house. Again, you're just busy. And then full moon in Libra. It's going to be a big look at you in relationships. This may even be the start of a new relationship for you, Aries risings, because, of course, your 7th house is going Kazemia in your first house, and then there's a full moon in your 7th house. So could be beginning a relationship. If not, it's a big look at who are you and who are you with. Whew. And that's the Aries risings. That was the 4 minutes. So now we get to our Leo rising. Let's find our single Leo rising. Leo rising. Oh. Sorry, I'm looking through all the old comments. There's probably some of you that are still commenting right now. Oh, there we go. ZSam618. You are a Leo rising. And, well, there's still 28 of you still watching this. What is up, guys? June 18th, 1993. You guys hanging in there like I am? Oh, Z Sam's 13. You didn't even put a time. Oh, we can't use you. You don't have a. Oh, wait. You did put a time. Never mind. I found it. 10:38. I'm assuming if you're a Leo rising, we'll figure it out which one, if it's AM or PM. In Shady Grove, Maryland. Whoops. What the fuck? Shady Grove? Is Shady Grove not a place? Hold on, did I spell that shit wrong? I'm like, oh, Rockville? Okay, sorry, I'm like at the... My brain is starting to shut down now after 2 hours of talking. This would be, I was thinking about, because I do want to do a podcast. I feel like it'd be so much easier if I had someone else on too, so it's not just all the weight and pressure on me fucking talking. But whoa, hello, Mars on the Ascendant. What's good? Leo rising, let's start. 5 minutes on the clock. Mars is going to be in your 11th house. Probably going to get in some fights with some friends, conflicts with some friends, some drama at the minimum with friends. Mercury's going to conjoin Jupiter in your 7th house. This whole relationship stuff finally gets figured out. You start actually going, okay, what do I want? Who do I want to be with? Who is my friend? Who is not my friend? Who do I like? Who do I not like? Who do I want to be seen by? Who do I not want to be seen by? And Mercury conjoining Jupiter is being, saying this is who I want to be with and who do I not want to be with. New moon in Pisces, new moon in your 8th. This is definitely looking at your debt, looking at other people's money and resources, what's yours and what's other people's, and where do you define that? Because I think this 8th house, you're going to be sharing your stuff much more, and I think it's going to be important to maybe be clear about what you're sharing with who and why, because there can be a lot of, boundaries that are kind of blurred over, but it'll be a big look at sharing stuff with other people, and I think you'll be really excited to do that because Venus will be conjoining Neptune, but I don't know if that's the best idea. Now, Mercury will leave shadow, so all this relationship stuff gets settled out for you, which, this Mercury retrograde was a big deal for relationships for you. And then Mercury goes into Pisces, where now it becomes much more about sharing resources, your partner's money, your partner's finances, their stuff, all that kind of jazz. The sun will go into Aries and Venus will go into Aries, and that Venus conjunction in 9th house. This looks like a new start spiritually. Like that spiritual confidence coming back, spiritual charisma coming back, remembering who you are, in a very godly sense. Mars is also going to trine Saturn. So with Mars in your 11th house, sure, Mars is in your 11th house, so there's drama and there's fights with friends, but Mars is trining your 7th house. There's individuals that you can rely on, that are trustworthy, and maybe not the collective. And then Mercury is going to square Mars, where the one issue, I think, too, is with Mercury in the 8th house of shared resources and Mars in your 11th house of friends. Like, don't mix your shit with friends' shit, because I think this is where, this is like oops, your friend broke your shit, and now there's nothing you can do about it. So be careful about who you let borrow things, and who you get involved with during this time. And then we have, of course, at the end, the Venus Cazimi, so that spiritual renewal, and that full moon in Libra. So that full moon in Libra in your 3rd house is very much like, if this is what you believe, how does that reflect in what you do every day? Like, do your beliefs actually shape your behaviors? And that's basically how we're ending March. And I think that's it. We're at 2 hours and 20 minutes. I don't think I've actually gone this long before. I wanted these to be shorter, but I also did rant for like 20 minutes at the beginning of this about all of the new stuff. So again, if you're only watching this right now, when I first started this, I talked a lot about, changes to my channel. I also, why I deleted my Twitter and everything. So I'm gonna upload this tonight. It should be up tonight, if not tomorrow, and you guys can watch the beginning there if you didn't see it. But with that being said, think that's all I got for you guys. So if you're watching this on YouTube, of course, too, thank you so much for being here, liking, sharing, subscribing. I'm sure also no one's going to be watching it by this point because it's the very end. And for everyone that's live on Twitch, thank you guys so much. Thank you for donating. Thank you for being a part of this and contributing your time. I love and appreciate every single one of you. And I will be seeing you guys next time.